almost done. You see the tomato sauce on your left? Go ahead and grab that and then place it in your cart. Great! Looks like you need a good wine pairing. Take a look to your right. Your age has already been pre-verified through your profile, so no need to wait for an ID check. Just place the item in your cart whenever you're ready. I'm getting a notification from your connected smart fridge. It looks like you already have a full gallon of milk at home. Should we put this one back? Hey, good news, your oil change is done. Your vehicle will be ready at the Tire and Lube Express. I've added the service charge to your cart. Now for the fun stuff, to electronics. You definitely saved the best for last. This TV has great reviews on Walmart.com. Add it to your cart, and I'll have it brought to the front for you. Need any accessories? Here are some options on Jet.com. Looks like that's everything on your list. Are you ready to check out with Walmart Pay? I'll have the TV brought out to your car. Thanks for shopping at Walmart and have a great day.
The metaverse is a parallel digital universe. It's permanent, continuous, and one which will seamlessly cross over into our real lives as the concept of real and digital becomes increasingly indistinguishable. Whereas the internet today is one where we just look at through a screen, the metaverse is something that we'll be actually inside of. So the metaverse is a shared, virtual, three-dimensional world, or even worlds, that are interactive, immersive, and also collaborative. This real-time alternate reality will stitch together all manner of virtual worlds, where we're bounced between socialising with friends, having meetings with work colleagues, or even taking a trip to see the Great Pyramid. And of course, shopping for clothes to wear out in real life, and others to enhance the appearance of our digital avatars. That's the character that appears in the metaverse as you. Of course, this view of the metaverse is currently years away, but the building blocks are here, and retailers and brands are already thinking about what this means for the relationships that they form with customers, where they form them, and the types of products they sell. The chances are that you would have heard of either Fortnite, Minecraft, or Roblox. And the commonality between these online platforms is that they bring together a community of users, allowing them to communicate, create, and spend time in a virtual setting. Roblox, as an example, launched in 2006, but it has gained significant traction over the last couple of years. It's a gaming platform that is focused on user-created games. So think of YouTube, but the content is games rather than video content. But it's got over 2 million active monthly users. It's really much more than just a gaming platform, and users transition this digital world playing a variety of games, but there's a big focus on the user's avatar. By changing real money in the Roblox currency, Robux, you can buy all manner of items from new clothes, virtual pets, and also access premium content. And what you can buy, you can also trade with other Roblox users for real money. Big brands have realised the opportunity. Gucci partnered with Roblox during the pandemic and created a Gucci Garden, a virtual version of the Gucci Garden in Florence that included a Gucci store, a Gucci museum, a Gucci restaurant. It was an event that lasted just a couple of weeks, but it was in this virtual world where users could come on and try on different virtual items, and they could even purchase virtual items using their Robux. During this 2-week event, Gucci allowed users to buy a Queen Bee Dionysus bag. It was 470 Robux or $5. The bag was only on sale for 1 hour, creating scarcity for this limited digital product. One of these virtual bags was later sold for $4,000, more than the bag in real life. Nike has also partnered with Robux to create Nike Land, a virtual space with fields, arenas, showrooms where gamers can try on the latest outfits. If the metaverse gains the kind of traction that many expect that it will, our interaction with brands and retailers will take on a completely different meaning as this Web 3.0 shifts towards merging physical and digital realms even further. Brands will use these digital experiences to contextualize the performance, quality, and value of the products that they sell, whether it's to someone in real life and deliver it to their home or in a digital format. Imagine being transported to Mount Everest, being guided up the east face with an explorer, explaining the benefit of each of the footwear brands as you hear the crunch of the snow under your feet. Or sitting in the comfort of your own living room, having a virtual interior designer creating bespoke mood boards, advising on colour combinations that are bespoke to your natural lighting and your space. But also, wearable tech will leverage augmented reality in physical destinations, where it will act as a bridge to overlay digital stimulus in a real-world environment. Although the metaverse is in its infancy, it will be really important for retailers and brands to recognise the potential impacts of this technology, and particularly in the evolution of consumers' wants, desires and expectations, but also the impacts on their business models.
Hi, is this Pizza Hut?
No, sir, it's Google Pizza.
Oh, sorry, I must have dialed the wrong number.
No, sir, Google bought Pizza Hut last month.
Okay, I'd like to order a pizza then.
Do you want your usual?
My usual? Do you know me?
According to our database, the last 12 times you called, you ordered an extra large pizza with 3 cheeses, sausage, pepperoni, mushrooms, and meatballs on a thick crust.
Super. Yeah, that's what I want.
May I suggest that this time you order a vegetarian pizza with sun-dried tomatoes on a whole wheat gluten-free crust?
Shit, no. I don't want a vegetarian pizza. It sucks. It's too healthy.
Your cholesterol is no good.
How in the hell did you know that?
We cross-referenced your home phone number with your medical records. We have the results of your blood tests for the last 7 years.
Well, either way, I don't want your goddamn vegetarian pizza. I take medication for the cholesterol problem.
Excuse me, sir, but you have not taken your medication regularly. According to our database, you purchased only a box of 30 tablets once at Superfarm Pharmacy 4 months ago.
I bought more from another pharmacy.
That doesn't show on your credit card statement.
Well, I paid in cash, that's why.
But you did not withdraw enough cash according to your bank statement.
Jesus Christ, I have other sources of money.
That doesn't show on your latest tax returns unless you bought them using an undeclared income source, which is illegal.
What the hell? Somehow you have my tax records? This is nuts!
I'm sorry, sir. We use such information only with the sole intention of helping you.
I'm sick and tired of Google and Twitter and WhatsApp and all that shit. I'm going to a desert island where I don't have to deal with any of that shit.
I understand, but you need to renew your passport first. It expired 6 weeks ago.
How in the hell did you know about my passport being expired? I was going to renew it. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with our country? Well, welcome to the new world. The new world is here, and it's scary. So everyone be ready, because that's what's happening. And have a good evening.
The metaverse is a parallel digital universe. It's permanent, continuous, and one which will seamlessly cross over into our real lives as the concept of real and digital becomes increasingly indistinguishable. Whereas the internet today is one where we just look at through a screen, the metaverse is something that we'll be actually inside of. So the metaverse is a shared, virtual, three-dimensional world, or even worlds, that are interactive, immersive, and also collaborative. This real-time alternate reality will stitch together all manner of virtual worlds, where we bounce between socialising with friends, having meetings with work colleagues, or even taking a trip to see the Great Pyramid, and of course, shopping for clothes to wear out in real life, and others to enhance the appearance of our digital avatars. That's the character that appears in the metaverse as you. Of course, this view of the metaverse is currently years away, but the building blocks are here, and retailers and brands are already thinking about what this means for the relationships that they form with customers, where they form them, and the types of products they sell. The chances are that you would have heard of either Fortnite, Minecraft, or Roblox. And the commonality between these online platforms is that they bring together a community of users, allowing them to communicate, create, and spend time in a virtual setting. Roblox, as an example, launched in 2006, but it has gained significant traction over the last couple of years. It's a gaming platform that is focused on user-created games. So think of YouTube, but the content is games rather than video content, but it's got over 2 million active monthly users. It's really much more than just a gaming platform, and users transition this digital world playing a variety of games, but there's a big focus on the user's avatar. By changing real money in the Roblox currency, Robux, you can buy all manner of items from new clothes, virtual pets, and also access premium content. And what you can buy, you can also trade with other Roblox users for real money. Big brands have realised the opportunity. Gucci partnered with Roblox during the pandemic and created a Gucci Garden, a virtual version of the Gucci Garden in Florence that included a Gucci store, a Gucci museum, a Gucci restaurant. It was an event that lasted just a couple of weeks, but it was in this virtual world where users could come on and try on different virtual items, and they could even purchase virtual items using their Robux. During this 2-week event, Gucci allowed users to buy a Queen Bee Dionysus bag. It was 470 Robux or $5. The bag was only on sale for 1 hour, creating scarcity for this limited digital product. One of these virtual bags was later sold for $4,000, more than the bag in real life. Nike has also partnered with Robux to create Nike Land, a virtual space with fields, arenas, showrooms where gamers can try on the latest outfits. If the metaverse gains the kind of traction that many expect that it will, our interaction with brands and retailers will take on a completely different meaning as this Web 3.0 shifts towards merging physical and digital realms even further. Brands will use these digital experiences to contextualize the performance, quality, and value of the products that they sell, whether it's to someone in real life and deliver it to their home or in a digital format. Imagine being transported to Mount Everest, being guided up the east face with an explorer, explaining the benefit of each of the footwear brands as you hear the crunch of the snow under your feet. Or sitting in the comfort of your own living room, having a virtual interior designer creating bespoke mood boards, advising on colour combinations that are bespoke to your natural lighting and your space. But also wearable tech will leverage augmented reality in physical destinations, where it will act as a bridge to overlay digital stimulus in a real-world environment. Although the metaverse is in its infancy, it will be really important for retailers and brands to recognise the potential impacts of this technology, and particularly in the evolution of consumers' wants, desires and expectations, but also the impacts on their business models.
we have planned for you today. So if you need to visit the other room, please do so now. If you need to take a phone call, you can do that, and please round it off. You don't want to. It's a packed day. We have keynote presentations, a fireside chat. We have some videos that will be playing. And of course, we're going to be launching the MarkHack. And for those who have been taking pictures downstairs, you're wondering what the hashtag is. It's very easy. It's hashtag MarkHack. So now's a good time to share your selfies, your videos, your pictures across your different social media platforms using the hashtag MarkHack. And of course, do tag the organizers, GDM Group and ECHO Innovation Center. I would like to see all your pictures and videos. And still speaking about phones, a bit of housekeeping. If we can all put our phones on silent mode or vibrate mode, we'll really appreciate that. We don't want any ringtones, no matter how funky they are, going off when our speakers are on stage. So please, let's put all our phones on silent mode or vibrate mode. Don't put them off, because it's important that you're able to record, take notes, take pictures, and of course share across. I know by the time you start pushing out the message, some people will be wishing they were here. But the good thing is you can always direct them to the live stream across the various social media platforms, from LinkedIn to Facebook to YouTube, and of course to Zoom. It's still not too late to register, and as I mentioned, we'll give another 2 minutes for everyone to settle down, and we will be starting this event. I believe we can have some soft music playing in the background for the next 1 minute. For those who just joined us in the hall, please let's put our phones on silent or vibrate mode. We're sorry that we're starting slightly late, but we'll do everything in our power to finish on time. We do appreciate that. Friday is the end of the week, so there's a lot planned. I know we have our press men here, and they will have to turn in their stories, so we're very conscious of time. So please bear with us. Would like you to stay with us from the beginning right to the very end. So I'll give it another 1 minute and we will begin. So the multimedia team in the next 1 minute will be starting with the second stanza of the national anthem. I believe we can start. Please may we all stand as we take the second stanza of the Nigerian anthem at the count of 3.
1, 2.
Good morning. The Special Advisor to Mr. Governor on Innovation and Technology, Mr. Tubosu Alake, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and my constituents, the members of the press. I see the institution, I see so many pressmen and women out there. Good morning. And of course, every single person who has joined us virtually across our live stream and on Zoom. It gives me great pleasure, and indeed it is an honor and a privilege to stand before you as the host of the first ever media and marketing hackathon in Nigeria. Yes, I believe that's a good place to put your hands together. Now, this hackathon is brought to you by GDM Group, a leading innovation and marketing agency, and a co-innovation center. And this will be the third hackathon, and it will interest you to know that the first hackathon looked at transport, and the winner from that has gone on to do amazing work with the Lagos State government. If any of you had used public transport, in particular the BRT, to come to this venue, you'll know that we do not accept money anymore. You have to have that cowrie card. And that's the kind of amazing results we're seeing from these hackathons. The second hackathon looked at energy, the smart meter hackathon. And we all know the pain points of estimated billing. And now we're happy to announce that, again, the winners are partnering with Lagos State government in rolling out locally produced smart meters. And today, we're not carrying last in the media and marketing space. I think this is a good place to really applaud the innovation of GDM Group and Eco Innovation Center. And this event is supported by our partners. We have Lipton, who has refreshed you. We also have Nescafe. We have AMP Foods and La Casera. Please put your hands together for these brands. We do appreciate their support. So today I was thinking, why a hackathon and why media and marketing? And it made me remember a particular conversation I had with my cousin many years ago in my grandmother's compound. We're talking about how in Benin Republic they had mobile phones, and I said, do you mean that I'll be here and I'll have my phone and you too, you'll have your phone, and wait, we'll be calling each other, we'll be sending messages? We couldn't really hack it in our minds because the closest we had was walkie-talkies and landlines. But now it's possible that I can be on stage and I can receive a message about what I'm doing. It's possible now that we can transact on our phones, we can pay for things. And when I look at how the industry has changed, we've seen telecoms. The pandemic came, and all of a sudden we saw that we didn't have to go to the markets to get our food. They could be delivered to us. Education also benefited from technology. We couldn't go to physical schools, but learning continued. So it's good to know that media and marketing are definitely not carrying last, and technology has come, and it has come to stay. I can't wait to see the disruption, and I know a lot of you are eager to find out. So as the event progresses, for those, I see some people who have joined us, please take your pictures, take your notes, share it with people, use our hashtag MarkHack. Again, this is the first ever media and marketing hackathon. Indeed, it's history in the making. To take us further, I would like it if you can put your phones down, free up your hands, and give a rousing, warm round of applause for someone who a lot of us see as a big brother. And I'm not talking about the entertainment big brother, but as we say in Yoruba, an egbon, someone who has inspired a lot of us, a visionary, a leader. He is the founder of a co-innovation center and curator of Art of Technology Lagos. If your hands are not too busy, please put your hands together for Mr. Victor Afolabi, who will be giving an overview of why MarkHack. And you certainly dressed the part. I almost didn't recognize you. This tech thing, you look it every inch.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? No. Okay, can the production guys help me, okay? Hello? Production guys, can you help me with this and make sure this is working a bit? Are we good? Sure? Can you hear me? Good. No echoes, please. Okay? So good morning, everyone. And I think it's an honor, and I think it's a privilege to be able to have all of us in here. First is to know that it's strictly an invite-only event. It's basically not designed for having everybody in. We have most of our people online. I want a big thank you to all the people who have logged on online. Quite a number of people logged in at 9 a.m. and have stayed. And it's to say a big thank you to every one of them. Coming this morning, I'm doing a welcome address, and I'll run us just through a few slides. Of course, of particular importance to me is a keynote speaker. And why is it important that I celebrate Dr. David Rapp this morning? The fact that this is his first time in Africa, okay? And I think it deserves a round of applause. And if you listen to CNN and a couple of things, trust me, I'm not sure this is the most exciting time for an American, full-fledged American to be in Nigeria, okay? And it's coming because he believes in what we're doing, and he knows that things can actually happen in here. And we're really excited having you, and we hope we'll have a great session with him. I think we're going to order a bit after his 10 minutes, because we have quite a lot of young people and audience online. We could take 10 minutes to have question and answer, and people can talk to him about it. He's one of the best and most brilliant minds in marketing and technology globally, and I think it's a pleasure to have you in here. And I have quite a number of my dignitaries, from my mentor who taught me everything about marketing, Mizuko, to the special executive assistant to the governor on new media. He's his terrain, Mr. Fafore, special advisor, Mr. Special Advisor to the Government on Innovation and Technology. We've done quite a number of hackathons. It's championing the transformation in here, and I think is good as in here. Have quite a number of our mentors in here. Mr. Lampe Omoyele, Bukola is around, Kaude, Oladapo is also in. We also have Mr. Rotimi all the way from UK. He's one of the veterans of the agency. He's been in client side, he's run agencies, now teaching and mentoring young people and doing incubation accelerations, not in Lagos, but in UK and Europe. And I think it's good to have, it deserves a round of applause, I think. He'll also be speaking later today. We've sent him out there to get all the ideas and come fix it back home here. So for quite a number of people online, also feel free to drop in questions, charts directed at them. We'll make sure we keep them here long enough. We didn't plan for lunch, but we just might start thinking of lunch to be able to keep them long enough, and I can ask them a lot of questions. So Dr. Rotimi, he also flew into the country. Thank you for being here. It deserves a round of applause, and we do hope we're going to have a great session with you. And great marketing greats that we're having here today. Okay, it's from here, from Unilever, Wale Elushaki, Bukola, Biodu, Ajiborede, and all my friends in-house. Thank you so much for a Chisholm from PZ. Our media partners, thank you guys, and I'm sure I'll do a more elaborate introduction, but I just felt it was only proper that I recognize as many as I could recognize this morning. And so why MarkHack? And I think from when we had this initiative and started thinking about it, everybody was sort of like, why MarkHack? What are you thinking about? What's this about? What is the expected outcome? And I just want to use the next couple of slides, 5, 6, to tell you, to help frame. I mean, I'm not the subject matter expert. The marketing greats are seated around here, and innovation and tech greats who are still practicing. And I think when they take the stage, for everyone who's logged on and everyone who's here, you'll be able to understand why we all think this should be a great initiative to curate together, and it's about collaboration, okay? And so I start from the quote of a very brilliant mind, Charles Darwin, who says, in the long history of mankind, those who have learned to collaborate, and that I think is the bedrock of what this is about, those who have learned to collaborate have improvised most effectively and have prevailed. And I think with all the things that are going around the world, we need to see more collaborations happening. I think the borders of competition should begin and have begun to fade. And we see the industries where collaborations are happening more are the places where we're seeing massive transformation and we're seeing the changes, and we think it's a time for marketing. And so what were we trying to, what's the theme or what's the driving agenda? It's about co-creating the disruption we anticipate. You know, I still spoke to a few people, Nengi we did some great things together. And I think she reminded me again that this has always been the dream. I think we started speaking about this like 4, 5, 6 years ago, how to bring tech in when we're together, when we work together as colleagues. And we believe that the disruption is going to come. I mean, we've seen it happen in the fintech sector. Tuboso and his people are making and the ecosystem life a bit more difficult for the banks and the bed. So the lunch is leaving the table, and like you said, the cheese is disappearing across many industries, from health sector to transport. But bigger in Nigeria is the fintech sector. And we think these disruptions are going to come. And I think it's better that we begin to co-create the future that we think, because ultimately, with technology and all that's happening globally, it will come. Should we rather sit and wait and hope that it never comes, bury ourselves in the sand, or be part of the process that leads to the co-creation, okay? And Nigeria has had its experience of unprecedented disruption in the tech ecosystem, with multi-solutions being created. And I think the statistics tells us that. Okay, because yes, it's tech to hack marketing. And when you look at the numbers, in 2021 alone, a total of $4 billion was invested in the tech ecosystem, both local and international investors. And $4 billion is significant, and that's what we've seen just in 2021. Nigeria is ranked globally the 63rd and 5th in Africa as one of the countries, the most developed ecosystem. And I think it's good work to both policymakers, ecosystem players, collaborators, and tech enthusiasts about what has happened in the tech ecosystem, okay? And of course, we have 144 tech startups that are recognized generally globally here. And the question is, can marketing really improve the economy? Because we don't think it should be on its own, especially for the non-oil sector. We think there's huge opportunity to have marketing and have media and have that whole landscape help us be able to grow the non-oil sector of the economy, which is quite important to us. We begin to see a demise of the oil sector, GDP, and a couple of things. And with all the young people and their enthusiasm about technology and all the things that are happening, we think we can leapfrog. I was speaking to our keynote speaker that somehow I think Africa might have missed the train for the Industrial Revolution, but we can latch onto the tech innovation and get many of our young people, leapfrog with the economy and get our young people employed and get them to do great things globally. And I think that's why this is important. And we believe marketing is an effective engine for economic development, marketing and media. So what's the big problem? Why are we having this conversation? The Nigerian marketing industry has seen preliminary innovation as it is. I mean, quite a lot has been done by organizations, agencies, area of data, putting a couple of things together. But we've seen innovation acceleration to disrupt the future. It's been a bit slow. And of course, we think that in changing consumer behavior, accelerated by the COVID pandemic, we think a lot can happen more. And we're yet to experience the notoriety of homegrown technological breakthroughs. And when it comes to media, when it comes to consumerism and how the consumers behave, most of these actually can be local. And we think that it's time we begin to see a literature of, those massive homegrown technological breakthroughs at scale in the marketing industry. But the number speaks for itself, and that's why we think we want to break our heads to get this done. So what are the numbers? MarkHack Alliance in 2021 estimates the global marketech industry at $344 billion in 2021. Let's not talk about the Nigerian stars, because I'm not sure we have people really playing that sector really right now, okay? But the numbers are there. The two biggest drivers of marketing budget increase, cited by also this MarkTech study, as changing consumer behavior and the changing tech landscape. So as we see consumer behavior changing, the tech landscape is changing. And therefore, we think that the way organizations spend and invest around what they do and how they engage the consumer is going to change with what we see around with technology. Spending on MarkTech now accounts for 23% of organizations' marketing spending budgets. And I think 23% is significant. According to the latest report, Nigeria with a 12.1 CAGR will be the world's fastest growing entertainment and media market over the coming 5 years. I'm sure when we say entertainment, many of us don't argue that. But it's not just entertainment. Entertainment and media will likely are going to be accelerating. And that's what PricewaterhouseCoopers has said in 2021. Web 3.0. With extended reality, market is expected to register an average growth rate of 57.9% from 2002 to 2027. And these are the stats. And that's what this is about. How do we be part of the movement that's creating this change and make sure that we can help to co-create the disruption that we all anticipate? And that's what we're talking about MarkHack 1.0, which is, of course, the gatherings of the brilliant minds that are here. Policymakers, okay? They're important. And we've seen that happen in the fintech space. It's good to start talking to policymakers early enough, and I think we have a couple of them in-house, okay, so that they understand where we're going. We've got a few regulatory people around here, so we think they should be in-house. We've got the innovators, many of them online. I'll show you the numbers of the people who are part of this, and it was mind-blowing, okay? Innovators, marketing professionals, quite a number of them sitting here. We have investors, impact investors, angel investors, all a part of this. And what we do expect them to use the creativity and technology and mentoring to result in prototypes, fresh new concepts, and innovative use of tech for marketing and media. So this is a co-creation of an ecosystem where it's not just about the agencies or clients, but we think it's a co-creation by all of us. And when you see we put on an array of all of us collaborating to make this happen, even though we have a few companies trying to help to to design the framework and set the agenda. It's really not about us. We think it's all the guys, quite a number of them online, who are part of this, that are helping to co-create this. So what are you supposed to expect? And of course, speaking to the whole community who are part of this and who want to be a part of this and who will help to midwife this process. So there's a walkathon that will kick off from this evening. And I'll tell you the numbers. We wanted to have the registrations open for about 3 weeks. We shut down in less than 3 weeks because we had over 500 registrations from 4 countries and we couldn't just cope anymore, okay? And we had to shut down the portal. And from tonight, we think the work will start, where the teams of 5, average of 5, will ideate and develop their ideas in 3 weeks. And after 3 weeks, they're turning their ideas, and we're going to have pitch events based on the focus groups. And I'll take us through the process. And when they have this pitch event, remember we've got over 100 teams. We're picking just 10% of them. The best 10 ideas across the focus areas is what we expect. Now, what have I seen in my 3 years little stints in the tech industry is possible you develop a product that doesn't have a product market fit. So what you see at times is that there's a disconnect between the brilliant minds innovating and all that and what reality says. Okay, and you find that you could develop some things that are very exciting and have very little local application. And so what happens to these 10 finalists? We have the best of mentors and minds. I was trying to accumulate when I was putting this together the number of years of marketing experience we want to bring up to bear. And I was struggling when I started saying the numbers. It's thousands of years. Ms. Zuko is over 30 years. Mr. Lanko Moyele is over 30 years in marketing. And all the minds put together. Dr. Rab is also done about going to 40 years, 4 decades. When we put all those minds together, they're part of this Dr. Rotimi. We have going to about 3,000 years of marketing experience that's coming together to curate this. So the mentors, which we've seen quite a number of them, some of them are seated in here, will help these 10 finalists in different sectors ensure they have the product market fit and that what they're producing and what they're developing has relevance to the market and applicability in the marketplace. Okay? And that's where the coaching starts. That's where the hand-holding and the mentorship. And of course, May 18th, and that's going to happen for 2 weeks, where virtually we've got a few mentors seated in Europe and all that, who also help them with context and all that. And when they're through with this 2 weeks process, helping them have the fit, they come to pitch the last 10 finalists to our final jurors. Of course, the best minds across agencies, across marketing practice, and they will be helping us select the finalists. And of course, what's in it for the 10 that will be selected out of the over 100 teams? There's prize money, which half of that goes to the final winner. And of course, a few will also go to the others that are going to be part of the finalists. Beyond that, we've got Ingressive Capital, a couple of investment ecosystem partners, a few of them also signified interest, which will be seated in the finals. And everybody's beginning to see beyond fintech, there are other places where we can do some kind of investment. So that's going to happen. And Eco Innovation Center is going to be investing with a fund, his own capital, another $50,000 in equity investment in these finalists to ensure that we accelerate them and we make them companies and organizations that are viable, okay? And we expect that more of our partners will begin to, in the next 6 weeks, signify interest to help invest. Of course, we have Experiential NG, which is one of the initiatives of one of our keynote speakers, Dr. Rotimi, also giving $1,000 to the company with the best pitch deck, even if they are not one of the top finalists. And I think they deserve a round of applause. So he has shared that to say there's $1,000 if you have the best pitch deck. You know, with marketing, the pitch deck is also very important. So he's giving $1,000 to the organization that has the best pitch deck, and of course we need to start watching out for that with our pre-selection jurors and everyone. And so I think this process is important for those who are in the room, and of course much more our audience online. I'm sorry. So what's the reach? And it's good we frame this so that everyone understands the enormity of what we have to do. 500 participants over were registered for this in 2.5 weeks. 72 locations. Almost every part of this country is hungry to innovate in marketing, commercial, and media. But not only in this country do we have, people signified interest. Some registered as teams, and we counted them as just one because they came together as a team. Quite a number of people came individually and put them together. But we have a couple of people from London, Europe, represented. And of course, where to Botswana, the ecosystem like to hear people come from, Silicon Valley, California, and all that. A couple from in there. We have Kenya, East Africa. I think that's a strong ecosystem resides in Kenya. And of course, we have in Pakistan, in Asia also, we have a couple of teams also who have signified interest. So 500 participants, 72 locations from 5 countries and from 4 continents. And I think at this point, it's a good point to put your hands together for all the people that have signified interest. And in 2.5 weeks, I've tried to put in their entries, put in their names, they're responding, forming their teams, and a lot is already happening outside of this invite-only event. But hey, were we expecting to see a skew? I mean, I remember we were creating with our teams and we had some wonderful debates. The MD of GDM is here, the country director of Eco Innovation, and all the other teams. And we kept asking ourselves, 8 focus area. Oh, this is the first time. Should we make it? And we thought we would not get areas where there will be entries. But see the spread. So in consumer experience, we have 13 teams. In media consumption, 5 teams. In consumer recruitment and interaction, 10 teams. In trade and retail engagement, 9 teams. Analytics and metrics, 13 teams. Event marketing, 12 teams. Media monetization, 15 teams. And content creation, 23 teams. Now, for you to register, you signify where you want to be. So it's not us that put them in those teams. This was the way in which people registered online and signified their interest of where they wanted to hack. And I think this is quite exciting. And so this is the cohort. Who are the people that will help work with these people to make wide? And I think throwing these logos up there gives you an idea. And Cody, thanks for helping me frame this. Gives you an idea of the number of organizations and the number of years of experience we're putting together. 21 mentors who will help to frame it. 30 selection jurors from most of the organizations, most of the FMCGs, tech industry. 30 selection jurors, the best minds, who use and will use these solutions, and who are the ones who are at the forefront, okay, are there. We have 8 speakers who will help us frame the context, and who will help us throw up the tension and the frustration from agency, from client, policymakers are there. We have 6 final jurors, and of course, when you put all of them together, these are all the organizations and agencies coming together to be a part of this first media and marketing hackathon in Nigeria. I'm not sure what has been done in Africa, okay? And I think this is exciting from an organization point of view and a collaboration point of view. So, on this note, I hope I've not bored you, but I think it's an exciting 6 weeks journey that we're looking forward to. And I think let the hack begin. Thank you very much.
You cannot mistake that passion. I was just listening and I was amazed. The first ever media and marketing hackathon, and such a positive response. The fact that they had to close the portal shows that a lot of young people, not just in Nigeria, but across the world, are eager to innovate. They are eager to solve problems using technology. Please put your hands together once more for the founder of Eco Innovation Center and curator of Art of Technology, Lagos. So today is not just going to be about keynote speeches and fireside chats and talking heads, but we'll also have some videos playing. So our first video will look at the future of marketing. So if we can dim the lights if possible, and everyone fix your eyes to the screen as we watch the future of marketing.
The next big thing in marketing is actually happening right now, and what I think it is customization in retail. I used to buy a whole bunch of masks and hair products because that's the thing that I could buy. And now because of the revolution in makeup and the customization in makeup, I think I have a lot more options. So I think really speaking to the needs of the consumer, particularly consumers of color, is the now thing and the next big thing.
We think that voice is the next big thing in marketing. Instead of typing into a phone or into a computer, I think that if customers can do it easier with voice, that they will. And if I can get my dealership to come up, that is really incredibly strong and powerful.
I think we're going to see over the next few years, the next big thing is going to actually shift our way of working in marketing due to privacy, due to putting that user first. And I think we should embrace it. We'll see different products come out. We'll see a different mentality of actually marketing to users and targeting because of that shift in privacy.
Everybody talks about there's no brand loyalty anymore, yet in performance marketing, everybody's trying to track lifetime value. So I'm really interested to see, one, how do we pair those two things? How do we crack it? And as consumers move through different life stages and life cycles, how can we find ways through measurement, through attribution, through things we're not even aware of yet, to not only maximize the value to ourselves, but to the consumer and continue to evolve with them as they evolve.
Wow, so many trends to look out for. I think during the pandemic, we saw a lot of changes in the consumer. And the more time passes, I really relate with the one of customization. Everybody wants the one that is for them, is customized for their own experience. And I'm sure some of the people here, the brand owners, also have this pain point. Well, they don't want that cookie cutter or one size fits all. They want that customization. I can't wait to see the different solutions that will come out. And indeed, it's an exciting 6 weeks to be looking forward to. Just like Mr. Folabi spoke earlier on about how important it is to co-create, and not just co-create within the ecosystem, but to carry government along to ensure that we have the necessary policies in place to support the ecosystem. I'm glad to see that we have several people represented from the Lagos state government, and the next person I'm going to be calling, I know he'll take our message to Mr. Governor. He's taking his notes here, and he'll definitely come back with some good news. So to deliver the goodwill message, please, if your hands are not too busy typing on your phones, you can put your phones down so that we can really warmly applaud the Executive Assistant to the Governor on New Media, Mr. Segun Fafore. A warm round of applause for him.
Thank you very much. Good morning, all. Good morning. So, I'm not going to call this a good message anymore, having listened to Victor. So it's going to be a strong-willed message. Yes. Because from the presentation and from the insights, it is evident that technology hacking marketing has become a do-or-die thing for us. It's either we allow it to remain alive, or we shun it and die. I don't know who wants to die. So, looking at the economic statistics, we can see a situation whereby yes, even though the data, the figures are looking nice, shows that we are growing at a certain rate, but there are better opportunities, we have rooms for improvement if the magic of technology is allowed in the space in our marketing space. So, as a state, and from what I know of the Lagos State government, particularly Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the governor of Lagos State, is an innovation-centered governor, is somebody who is open to opportunities for transformation. And we know that technology is the pathway to leapfrogging socioeconomic development. So, about 2 nights ago, to further show that the world is global, there was a night of agony somewhere in London, Stamford Bridge. I know some people did not sleep well because of that incident. Some of us slept very well, not because we supported Madrid or were supporting Madrid, but because some people lost and they lost to our own satisfaction. You see, the pain of what happened far away then, people felt it here, right? So that you know, the night of agony is not over. Come next week at Santiago Bernabeu, a certain king called Karim Benzema will do more damage. But do you know something that is strange? Yeah, it's football. But do you know some people lost money? People lost money, so much money. But with technology, in sport betting, in marketing, in predictive analytics, people will be able to put their money or hedge their money better on these things. The agony, apart from people who could not see because of passion, those ones who took, as a result of adventure, who put their life savings and other things, will be able to act in a more informed or better informed manner, right? Why did I bring this in? I'm a football aficionado. I love football. It is my own religion. But with technology, I know that there will be better understanding, involvement, interpretations, and other things around the game of soccer. If football, something that people think is boring, could be that, predicted with technology, what will happen to entertainment? Lagos is supposed to be the capital of entertainment. If we allow so much technology, the IT hubs, the Yaba, the innovation centers, and other things, when technology becomes a pathway, when we open our minds to embrace this magic, what is likely to happen? Victor said, let the art begin. I will say, let's start the party. It's going to be merry. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that hard will message, Mr. Shego Fafore. Next, we're moving very swiftly to our first keynote speech. And just like Mr. Falabi said earlier on, this is his first time, not just in Nigeria, but on the continent of Africa. So please, let's give him that warm African Nigerian welcome when I invite him on stage. And also our virtual audience tuning in. You can show some love with the clapping emojis in the comment section. And just like it was mentioned earlier, we will open the floor for questions. So if you do have questions or comments, please note them down because we'll be taking some of those questions. So I believe a video is going to play to do the introduction, and then we'll all give him that Nigerian welcome when he comes to the stage.
David Raab. David M. Raab is founder and CEO of the Customer Data Platform Institute, which educates marketers and technologists about customer data management. Mr. Raab named the Customer Data Platform category in 2013. As a marketing technology consultant and analyst, Mr. Raab has been helping global marketers to understand, find, and deploy appropriate technologies for many years. Prior to his consulting career, Mr. Raab held senior marketing positions in the publishing and direct-to-consumer marketing industries. Mr. Rab regularly speaks and teaches at events around the world. He is author of hundreds of articles on marketing technology and of the Marketing Performance Measurement Toolkit. Mr. Rab is a graduate of Columbia University and Harvard Business School. Ladies and gentlemen, David M. Rab.
I think I might. Thank you. Thank you for the welcome. Delighted to be here. It is indeed my first time in Africa, a long time goal to be here, so I can cross that off my list. Disruption. Slides. Button. Can we get my slides up? Ah, there we are. Very good. Thank you. So, disruption. In technology circles, it's considered a self-evident good. But before jumping into how to disrupt marketing, let's first discuss what disruption is and what it isn't. Disruption is not the same as change. Some changes are disruptions, but many, in fact, most changes are not disruptions. For example, going from a horse-drawn carriage to a self-propelled automobile, clearly disruptive. But the change from early automobiles to current automobiles is not a disruption. This is true even though the technical difference between that 1902 buggy and that 1902 automobile is much greater than much less than the technical difference between that 1902 automobile and that 2022 automobile. There's more technical difference between the early car and the later car, but it's not a disruption. And what of the difference between the 2022 gasoline automobile and the 2022 electric automobile? Both use many of the same technology, but is that a disruptive change or is it not a disruptive change? The answer lies in the definition of disruption. Disruption changes the structure of an industry. To brutally oversimplify some extremely elaborate and elegant theory, disruption changes who you buy from. It changes the seller. That's what makes it a disruption. So in our automobile example, the shift from horse buggies to automobiles changed who sold the personal vehicles. Instead of buying from a local buggy maker, you bought it from a big automobile manufacturer. That was a disruptive change. It was a different seller. But the dominant automakers today are mainly companies that started selling automobiles in the early 1900s. And even the younger companies that have elbowed their way into industry leadership use basically the same technologies. Since all the intervening technologies did not displace the industry leaders, those were not disruptive changes. They didn't change who you bought from. Which brings us to Toyota versus Tesla. Is that a disruptive change from gas-powered to electrical-powered? We'll take a vote. How many people think it is disruptive? Electrical to gas, or gas to electrical? How many people think it's not disruptive? Okay. That's a trick question because we don't know the answer, all right? Toyota and its peers in the global industry are investing furiously in electric vehicles, and there's a very high chance that they will continue to dominate the automobile despite the transition to electrics. And if they continue to dominate, there's no change in seller, and it's not a disruptive change in the sense that disruption is used by the academics. So it turns out that the boundary between disruptive and non-disruptive technologies isn't quite so clear. You can't really tell by looking at them. You have to wait and see how it ultimately pans out. Okay, so even major change is not always a disruption. And guess what? Disruption isn't always a technical change. Consider gig economy companies like Uber and Airbnb. The product they're selling are car rides and bedrooms. Basically, it's the same physical product as you get from a taxi company or a hotel company. Yeah, the booking mechanism is different, and there's some clever technology under the hood, but it's nothing the other firms couldn't really replicate. What's different is the business model. Even closer to home, Amazon e-commerce and fulfillment systems are superbly efficient, but they're not really unique. And the original code for Facebook was written in a college dorm room over the weekend, or at least that's how Hollywood tells the story. And why would they lie? So those firms, Amazon, Facebook, they had no deep technical advantage over their competitors. What they were doing wasn't really that different. Technically, what they had was innovative business models executed relentlessly. So in short, disruption is a change in who you're buying from. Some disruption is technical, some disruption is business change, and lots of change isn't disruptive at all. Okay? So now we understand what disruption is and isn't. That's good theory. Let's look at some more disruptives in marketing in particular. Okay? Change in marketing is nothing new. Over the last 150 years, marketing has expanded from traditional in-person selling, and signs, that's where it all started, to include mass circulation newspapers and magazines, then radio, television, cable television, and of course, web advertising. Now, were these disruptive changes? Well, they added new sellers to the industry, but they didn't really replace the existing sellers. Newspapers didn't go out of business just because radio came in, and so on. And in fact, the newspaper companies really dominated many of those new channels in the early days. The radio stations were often owned by newspaper companies. The TV stations were often owned by newspaper companies. So was it a disruptive change? It wasn't really a different seller. There were new sellers. Each of those new channels had something in common. They all reached what is essentially an anonymous audience, in what you might reasonably call a broadcast model. The main role of marketing was to create awareness among this anonymous audience. Now, if you want to understand just how stable the industry has been over those last 150 years, continue the term I just used, awareness. Awareness is part of this model of awareness, interest, desire, action, which we talk about to this very day. That was first articulated in 1898. It's been applied ever since. We've been having the same fundamental framework in marketing for more than a century. And similarly, the key buyers in the industry were really ad agencies who bought media. That's who controlled the industry. Again, no change. Ad agency's been around for roughly, again, that same 150 years. So disruptive change, despite the great technical change, despite all that innovation, the marketing industry has been in many ways quite stable until the internet. The internet changed everything. Now, early advertising on the internet was as anonymous as advertising on newspapers and radio and TV. You put a banner out there and somebody clicked on it. But as tracking capabilities improved, internet marketing took on a different flavor. It became more like direct marketing because they began to target individuals and watch their response. This created a new and truly disruptive dynamic. Internet marketing looked less like traditional advertising and more like direct marketing, which is a largely separate field with its own 150-year history. And that's where I come from, is the direct marketing industry. So direct marketing began with catalog and magazine subscriptions, and was actually based on the same technology as the mass newspapers, this high-volume, low-cost rotary printing press developed in the 1840s and 30s. But while newspaper advertisers using the same technology were driving customers to retail stores and never knew who came as a result of their ads. You couldn't tell with the newspaper. By contrast, catalog and subscription marketers knew exactly who was ordering because the order responses came by mail. This let them correlate the orders with the offers that they had received. So they could measure response. They knew who was responding. They knew what they sent them. They could then begin to test and optimize the program. The discipline was refined before computers. It was then easily expanded from direct mail to direct response TV in the 1970s, to email in the 1980s, and then to e-commerce during the dot-com boom of the 1990s. And that's when things really became interesting and disruptive. With e-commerce in general and Amazon in particular, Amazon's founded in 1994, direct marketers began to take significant portions of revenue from brick and mortar retailers. Direct marketing goes from this little sort of side thing, little tiny sort of offshoot of the marketing industry that the big advertising companies and agencies kind of poo-pooed to something that all of a sudden is really getting their attention because it's taking money from the retailers. It's changing who people are buying from, and that, of course, is what makes it a disruption. So that's a bona fide disruption because it's changing who you're selling, who's selling. But there's more, as the direct response TV people like to say. E-commerce disruption was the first in a cascade of successive disruptions. Each disruption intercepted buyers at ever earlier stages in the buying process. That's really the important point here. So the first post-Amazon disruptor was Google, 1998. It uses search marketing to identify buyers while they're still researching their options before they can go and visit Amazon to buy what they've chosen, and certainly before they go to the retail store to make a purchase. Google, in turn, is leapfrogged by Facebook, 2004 starting, which uses social media signals and a great deal of other data that they capture to identify buyers' intent even before they start active research. So this sequence of innovation traces a different sales funnel. It's not awareness, interest, desire, action that we've been talking about for over 100 years. It's now consumers recognize a need. They develop an intent to resolve that need, followed by research to pick a product, and then the actual buy. So need, intent, research, buy, different from awareness, interest, desire, action, a new marketing, a new sales funnel. Now, the broadcast model began with awareness because there was no way to know who was actively considering a purchase. You couldn't find those people, and if you could find, you had no way to reach them. The internet model is based on vastly more efficient because you don't waste advertising on people who won't be customers. You concentrate people who've demonstrated intent and on the verge of making a decision of sort. Traditional marketing, builds awareness, while internet marketing discovers intent. Fundamentally different thing. Okay? Huge disruption. Now that's great, but Facebook was founded almost 20 years ago, right? What's happened since then? The answer is that innovation has continued, huge innovation in the marketing industry, but in fact, disruption has not continued. What's happened instead is a classic example of industry leaders assimilating potential competitors, disrupting the disruptors, if you will. Google and Facebook bought the companies that threatened their position, like YouTube and Instagram and WhatsApp. This not only eliminated competitors, but it strengthened the leader's position because it added powerful new ways to capture intent. And remember, it's all about capturing intent. And even the few new firms who come in, like TikTok and Snapchat, they succeed more through execution than through technical or business model innovation. And it's exactly the same way that a Toyota and a Honda come in to become top-tier car companies by using the same technology, but just doing a better job of it. In an even clearer example of leaders blocking technical disruption, Google bought ad server DoubleClick in 2008. This cements Google's control over the display advertising on the open web, which in turn lets Google thrive despite the threats created by further innovations like ad exchanges, real-time bidding, and header bidding, which are hugely threatening if you're Google. In fact, we've recently learned through antitrust litigation that Google and Facebook colluded to give themselves even greater organization advantages in the display ad market. And that collusion was possible precisely because Google owned the systems that were running the ad bidding process. So the leaders just kind of keep control. So has today's advertising industry reached the stage of the auto industry in 1920, where the major firms can absorb new technical changes without losing their leadership position? I think not. And I think not because there are new disruptions on the horizon that even Google and Facebook resources cannot resist. And these, my friends, are your opportunities. But before we get to that, we'll do one more brief detour to visit disruptive innovation in the MarkTech industry, okay? And it's a very brief trip. MarkTech is a young industry dating to the 1970s, when computers are first applied to marketing tasks. The industry grows steadily for several decades after that, but there's no disruption because there are no leaders to displace. It's a brand new industry. Then in 1999, Salesforce.com offers customer relationship management on a software as a service platform. Lots of big words there. I think you know them all. This is a truly disruptive technology because software as a service offers a lower cost and easier deployment than installed software. Indeed, Salesforce displaces the old style CRM vendors quite quickly. Secondly, Salesforce soon developed a platform model which lets other firms sell add-on modules on top of the core Salesforce system. Platforms cement the leadership position of the platform owners. That's what platforms do. And thus they block further disruption. So we had this one disruption when SaaS takes over, and then the platforms would emerge, kind of stifle further disruption. The MarTech industry has been growing and innovating very radically, but along the same lines ever since. More firms, but no fundamentally different technology or business model, no fundamental disruption in the industry. Okay. So much for MarTech. Let's get back to the good stuff, disruptions that can make you rich, which is really what this is all about. Okay, we'll start with the most important disruption of all, which is privacy. As we've already seen, the great value in today's marketing world goes to whoever can identify the intending customer first, whoever first finds intent and can attach a name to it that he can then reach out and advertise to. Because that company can then guide that buyer through the rest of the process, control what they buy, or at least influence what they buy. The power of Google and Facebook comes precisely from their surveillance networks that identify customer intent using data from their own sites and other sites. Privacy is disruptive because it cuts that data flow. It blocks third-party cookies, removes device identifiers, and requires consumers to consent to having their data shared. This is why Facebook estimated it would lose $10 billion in revenue due just to Apple's application tracking transparency rules. One stream of behavioral data that was cut off. It's going to cost Google $10 billion. So privacy changes are highly disruptive because they both reduce the ability of the current market leaders to target effectively, and they force even lazy marketers to look for alternatives. That's different from most disruptions where innovators struggle to get marketers to try something new. Marketers have no choice due to privacy, but to try something new. It's a great opportunity for disruptors to come in and change who those marketers are buying from. So the question, of course, is how you can take advantage of this amazing opportunity on sale now. Here are some possibilities. You can find alternative customer identifiers to replace cookies and device IDs and data sharing. And a lot of companies are trying to do just this, using things like hashed email addresses and device fingerprinting and quasi-anonymous cohorts. If you watch the industry news, you see tons and tons about this. No single solution has emerged, and probably no single solution will. It's just too complicated. But there's value even in partial solutions, like just tying individuals to locations so you can measure the traffic that an ad drives to a store, solving that problem that the newspapers could never solve. Just that one little piece of the data puzzle has tons of value. Second thing you can do is you can identify customers through devices like connected TVs and fitness trackers and home appliances and everything else. This applies to any internet-connected product that requires the customer to identify themselves. So they're identifying themselves, and now I can watch their behavior. Now, some devices capture more interesting information than others. Your TV set knows more about you than your toaster, but your toaster knows some interesting things. And any product that captures customer data can also be useful because they can deliver messages based on the data they capture and based on the data that's gathered elsewhere. So they're both a delivery device as well as a data capture device. There's lots of possibilities for taking advantage of that disruption. Your third opportunity is to reach customers through alternative media outside the web, like games and mobile apps and retail networks, okay? Those are valuable for many reasons, but in part because they're off the open web, which puts them beyond the reach of the trackers of a Google or a Facebook. They can't get at that data. They don't rely on cookies or device IDs for tracking because most of them require the customers to sign in. So like devices, these capture a rich stream of behavior data and may offer a medium to deliver targeted messages. So you won't be surprised that companies like Google are eagerly setting up ad networks to serve those other channels. But there's little reason for a media owner to cooperate with a Google or a network owner whose interests are so clearly opposed to their own. Why in heaven's name would I let Google take over my advertising when I know that they're just going to try to take all the money from me? Third option, fourth option, focus on first-party data. We hear a lot about this. First-party data is data a company collects directly from its consumers. Okay? As privacy changes remove the amount of data that companies can share with each other, first-party data, the data you collect directly, becomes more important kind of by default. Now, let me be clear, because this is actually a point of confusion. First-party data doesn't substitute for third-party data. Third-party data you use to find new customers. First-party data relates to people who are already your customers, so it's not just a one-for-one substitution. But most companies can make better use of their first-party data. They can do better personalization, they can do better targeting, they can combine data from different systems to build a more complete profile. This is what customer data platforms do. So better understanding of your customers lets you make more money from your existing customers, and it also lets you do a better job of understanding what your customers look like, so you can go out and build lookalike models that find other people similar to your customers. So first-party data can help with acquisition, but it doesn't simply replace third-party data. So how do you decide? How do you assess which of these opportunities to pursue? Let's sort of set a framework here. First question is, does it provide substantial value to the buyer? Usually that either means it's going to work better, have a higher value, or it's going to be lower cost. It's either better or it's cheaper. Cars are better than horses, at least for transportation. Targeted ads work better than untargeted ads. SaaS software is cheaper and easier to install than installed software. So clearly benefits from those. So whatever you're proposing to replace current advertising leaders has to offer better results to marketers. The good news is you're being judged by those leaders' post-privacy solution, after privacy has cut off the flow of their data, not their pre-privacy solution. That's a much lower bar for you to pass. Second, for marketing solutions in particular, you can ask whether the new option identifies intending buyers sooner. Remember, the first one who gets there kind of wins, or whether it provides better data so you can do better targeting against them. For the sake of alliteration, sooner or smarter. Okay? Is the data that I can capture sooner or smarter? Now, sooner or smarter is really another version of cheaper or better, but it's worth listing separately because it's not always obvious how sooner and smarter relates to cheaper and better, but it usually does. Finally, the new solution has to be something the leaders can't easily block. Okay? It might be a technology they can't master or a business model they can't support. That's the reason buggy makers didn't become auto manufacturers. They couldn't make engines. They could make bodies, and many buggy manufacturers actually became auto body builders, but because that's a pretty similar technology, but they couldn't make engines. That's quite different. Similarly, a hotel company can't easily become an Airbnb room aggregator because the hotel company's asset is the hotel rooms. And that model doesn't need hotel rooms. They can use the reservation systems. They have some other assets, and some of them do this, but they're starting from behind and building the really dominant asset, which is that host network. So it's hard for them to suddenly dominate and squash the competition before it becomes too powerful. Of course, the other thing that leaders can do is they can just go out and buy the competitor. And we talked about Google and Facebook buying YouTube and places like that. Happens all the time. We've certainly seen it happen in the marketing world. But sometimes the new competitor can't be bought. In marketing, for example, TV manufacturers, companies like Samsung, suddenly have access to valuable targeting data they can read from the TV. Okay? Well, Facebook has a $900 million market cap. Samsung has a $400 billion marketing cap. Facebook just can't go out and buy Samsung. It would take half its entire market cap to do that. And Facebook sure as heck can't buy Apple, which is worth 3 times what Facebook is worth. So they can't just go out and buy and quash the competitor. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying you have to be a giant company to compete, or they have to have some insurmountable business or technical advantage. That's nice, but most of us in this room are not going to have that. What I'm saying is that you have to align yourself with a disruption that has one of those advantages so that you can build on top of that, that you can benefit from the growth of that disruption. So we have our little checklist. A viable business has to offer a product that's better and cheaper, or data that's sooner and smarter, and it has to somehow be defensible against acquisition. So let's for fun, how much fun is this? Let's apply our little template to the 4 opportunities that we just looked at, okay? So, tracking customers, the first opportunity was alternate IDs. Is it sooner, smarter, better, cheaper? Well, it may be smarter because you're going to get some more detailed data, although there's some issues with scale. Is it defensible? No. Google and Facebook actually can very easily join a consortium with alternative IDs, so that's probably not a super promising disruption. Second disruption was the devices. Can we track customers and deliver targeting ads through non-web devices like connected TVs? Data's smarter now. We have some new data that's got some very interesting customer information. It comes in quite early, in fact, although it's, some of it's limited. You don't necessarily have a complete view of the customer. In terms of defensibility, Google and Facebook don't have access to your TV unless the TV set maker gives it to them. And there's very little reason for the TV set makers to share that. On the other hand, they could, of course, go out and build devices. They can go out and build, let's call it Google Nest, which in fact Google did exactly that for exactly that reason, to capture the data that they otherwise would have lost to other devices. The third thing we talked about was alternative media, games, apps, networks. Track your customers to that. Good data, smarter in that sense, because we can track them over time, and good delivery options, but consumers don't like to be spied upon, and sometimes that's perceived as creepy to watch what they're doing as they're playing the game or as they're using the app, so got to watch that. Defensible, well, Google and Facebook can and do build games and build apps, but they don't own retail networks. A retail network is when a big retailer markets to its own company and sells ads to other people, but markets to its own channel. Very large trend in the industry right now. So, okay, promising. First-party data, the last option, gives better experience to your current customers, but again, it's not really much help in finding new customers, so the actual value there is a little limited. It is, however, very strongly defensible because you own that data. And so it's not going to get shared with Google or Facebook unless you choose to. Well, they have their ways. There's something called a conversion API that Facebook is spending a lot of money on where it says, oh, just give us your customer data and we'll help you measure better. Well, yeah, okay. Maybe I'll do that and maybe I won't. So, more disruptions you can use. Now, we kind of have a framework. Kind of, okay, how do you know how to think about disruption and assess whether it's promising or not for something to you to base your business around? Other disruptions from an API platform to data platform. Remember we said that marketing really has not had disruption, marketing technology really hasn't had much disruption since the SaaS model and the platform model, which is really based on APIs, kind of emerged 20 years ago. Well, guess what? There's now something called data platforms that kind of leapfrogs the APIs. It says you're not going to have a platform controlled by somebody else that you connect to through an API. You're going to have your data outside of any one platform, and all the platforms are going to talk to the data, and it's your data. You control it, you being the company. It's your first-party data. So this reduces the reliance on those platform owners and gives you more power as a marketer. So it's got some very interesting possibilities to it. Second option, something that's called product-led marketing, and freemium models is one that you're probably familiar with, where you give somebody a free trial or a free sample of the product, and instead of going through a long sales cycle, works particularly in tech and software, instead of having your sales guys spend hours trying to convince them, oh, buy this thing and see if it works or not. Good value to company, lots of opportunities for you to do. These are things, that possibility column there is what you might do. Yes, you could build a product and sell it that way, but you can also help other people do that. Create sandbox tools, create self-training experiences, create systems that monitor the customer use to alert you when someone's having a problem. There's things that you can do that don't involve actually running the disruption yourself. So definitely lots of opportunity there. The change from live events to virtual events, which we don't know how far it's going to go. We were doing just virtual events during the pandemic. Now live events obviously are coming back. You're all here. But it's not going to go back all the way. There still will be virtual events. So how's that hybrid event world going to look, and what can you do to take advantage of it as it evolves? Those are marketing changes. Disruptions in the world of work. So replacing skilled professionals or helping skilled professionals do a better job by supplementing their work with artificial intelligence. You're not really going to replace skilled professionals, I hope, speaking as a skilled professional. But there are lots of ways to make the skilled professionals' jobs easier and let them do the kind of the fun stuff and take some of the drudgery away from their jobs. So lots of potential there. And again, you can offer tools to make it easier to build those models or to integrate the models into the systems or to assess how they're running and to find problems. There's lots and lots of things that you can do. And I don't know what just happened there. Okay. There we go, thank you. So lots of things that you can do to take advantage of the AI revolution without yourself being an AI company. The move from office work to work from home, again, a very pandemic accelerated change. I gather that here in Lagos, people are mostly back in the office. Sorry to hear that. Someone who's worked from home for 40 years, I would not go to an office. But there are lots of options there. The advantage is to work from home. Companies don't have to pay for office space. People don't have to spend as much time commuting. They can live in nicer places. They don't have to be in commuting range of a city anymore. So again, what can you offer as a product that helps companies replicate the benefits of being in office, even though people are working from home, both the office communications and collaboration tools, but also things like living in a city, you know, have access to restaurants and nightlife and doctors and lawyers and all kinds of resources. How can I make those sort of equally accessible without being physically present? Lots of opportunity to extend that and build a successful business. Okay. And if you're not going to let me see my slides, we're not going to get very far. So going from employees to contractors, the gig economy, again, a huge thing that I don't have to tell you about. You're all quite aware of it. And again, how can you build systems that support and take advantage of the development of that gig economy? And then the third set of disruptions that we have here is, okay, it's not going to let me advance. This is technology is great, right? I mean, like we're all here and we can't get the bloody slides to work. All right, give me one. So there's a fourth set of things here that are sort of general life changes. They're moving from conventional to crypto, moving to blockchain, going from fossil energy to renewable energy, those kind of fundamental disruptions that are happening everywhere. And again, the challenge here is for you to find ways to take advantage of those. You don't have to be the one who's making the electric car, but maybe you're the one who builds a little app that lets them find a charging station nearby. Some little thing like that can be immensely valuable. So that's the kind of thing that you guys, if you don't happen to own a car company, and if you do, good for you, but if you don't happen to, you can still benefit from that change. So where does this leave us? This leaves us without slides, is where this leaves us. Oh, here we go, look at that. Okay, so putting it together, this is the end. Change is everywhere. But usable disruption is hard to find. There's plenty of change that's not usable disruption. What makes a disruption usable is that it has strong benefits and it's defensible. And what you want to do is support disruption with innovative solutions for your business success. And I thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe that was a loaded keynote session. I saw some people taking down notes, and I'm sure we have some questions. So we'll take questions from the floor as well as from our virtual attendees. So if you have a question, please just raise your hand, and Usher will go around with a microphone. I believe we can take 2 or 3 questions. Okay, yes, I see a hand to my right. So we'll get a microphone to you.
Or not.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Abubakar Gbadamosi. The first question, my question comes in food. The first question is CDP, that's the customer data platform, right? I want to know from what I learned, it's a kind of a database showing the customer data, right? Is it virtual first? And if it's virtual, is it something that can be hacked? Like, and what disaster does it portray to, let me say, analysts if the CDP is hacked? That's the first question. And the second question comes like this. In a situation where there is no regulatory bodies for data privacy, is it not going to be inconvenient for people issuing out data? Like, for example, I don't know, like, let me say they said I should register on a platform and I register. I don't know what use would that data be for. And I would kind of be worried if I see different type of advertisement being portrayed to me. And whereas I don't know who to report such a situation to, right? So that's the kind of question, like, would it not be disastrous registering just without regulatory bodies, monitoring organization taking data? Thank you.
Okay, so hopefully I understood your question. First one was CDP, is it virtual and can it be hacked? Anything can be hacked, all right? I think that's just the reality of it. Is it in the cloud? Usually, although if you really want it to be in your own data center and on-premise solution, about half the CDP will let you do that. So that's up to the company. And we do see in industries like financial services where they're very, very security conscious, often they will choose to have a CDP, but keep it in-house to minimize the disruption or at least the risk, or at least to have control over the risk. So it's up to you. It doesn't have to be. Can it be hacked again? Sure, it can be. Anything can be hacked. In reality, companies whose business depends on data being secure, like the big cloud services and like CDP vendors, are pretty rigorous about security. They're probably more careful than most companies are with their own internal data. So we haven't really seen, I don't think we've seen any of the major CDPs get hacked. We've seen a lot of big companies get hacked. So, you know, you gotta think where the actual risk is, relatively speaking. Your second question was, I think, will consumers worry about the privacy? Is that sort of what it boiled down to? Consumers are definitely worrying a lot about privacy. They're way more aware of it than they were a few years back. They're more concerned. They're more likely to take action. That doesn't mean they won't give you their data. What it means is that you have to earn their trust. You have to convince them that you're taking good care of their data. And you have to convince them that you're going to take into account what they want you to do with their data. So it's all about building relationship and building trusts. One of the big challenges for marketers, one of the big opportunities actually for marketers in this list of things that are disruptive, is helping to build that trust, to convince consumers that you can be trusted. You will honor their consent. You will do what they want to do and not do what they don't want to do. And it's not just a legal thing. I mean, okay, let's try not to break the law. That's a good idea, generally as a business practice, not to break the law. But there are things above and beyond the law that consumers don't want you to do, that you have to really convince them. And that comes back down to branding. It's like, do they trust the company? There's lots and lots of research on that. And if they trust the company, if you take specific actions, explain how you're using the data, explain how your security actually works. Even if your security is no better than anybody else, just talk about it. Makes consumers feel better. It'll make them more likely to trust you and therefore to give you your data. Does that help?
Do we have more questions? Okay, that's the second question.
Good morning. Itwa from Connect Marketing Services. My question is this. With the speed of technological advancement and the ease in replicating technology, don't you think a business model would be a stronger defensive strategy as regards competitive advantage over technology?
Will the business model be stronger than a technology advantage? It just depends on the business model and the technology. I mean, there are business models that actually aren't that hard for you to replicate. Either you go out and buy someone, which again is a very common way for companies to replicate a competitive business model, or you kind of build it if it doesn't conflict with yours. This is the whole innovator's dilemma thing that actually kicked off this whole notion of disruption back in 1997 is that book. And as we said with the electrical thing, you know, because there's a business model aspect to electric cars, and clearly the technology the car companies can make. Can they switch? Because they have to change all their suppliers. They have to change the business model in terms of how people get, refuel the cars. It's a different fuel system. Will those people be able to change and adapt that new business model, or is it such a disruptive change to them that they can't do it for whatever reason? So I don't know the one or the other. It's going to depend, and sometimes it'll be both, and of course sometimes it'll be neither. So not much of an answer, but I think that's the real answer.
Take one more question. So just one more question.
Good morning. My question is around looking at the sales funnel. So I handle marketing for a new startup that's helping to introduce e-notary in Nigeria. It's called ToNote. My question is, when you're introducing a product that the market itself doesn't already see the value, and you're trying to put your ideal customers within the sales funnel, how do you prioritize marketing in such a way that perhaps you're looking at marketing budget and you don't want to spend so much, you want to bootstrap, and you want to leverage technology at the same time? How do you put your marketing strategy around not spending too much, but being able to reach this audience that is not readily seeing your product for them?
Okay, certainly a challenge. Just to, again, rephrase it. So how do you, what you're really asking is market development. That's what the theorists call that, right? How do I build a market for a product that's a brand new market, a brand new product doesn't exist? You have to educate the consumers. How do I do that efficiently given technology? There are probably other people who are actually more expert than I am in that, but what I would do from a technology standpoint is I would use all the data that we have floating around to find the most likely users, people who will benefit the most from my product, and focus my energy on them, on that little foothold segment of the larger market, and see if I can at least convince some of those people who are really going to benefit that they will benefit. And so, again, going back to our awareness versus intent, focus on the intent. You're going to have to build that intent. One of the things we actually didn't talk about is, remember, that new model starts with need. So the question is, can I change need? Can I convince people they need something that they don't think they need? And in fact, the answer is yes. And that's exactly, in fact, what market development does. You have to introduce them to something and to say, oh, wait, okay, a CDP does things I really needed. I didn't know that solution existed. Now that you mention it, yeah, I really could benefit from pulling all my data together, the CDP. So we spend a lot of energy explaining to people what CDPs do and why you would need one. And that's what you're going to have to do. And indeed, in that industry, just to speak from personal experience, we started out in the industries that had the greatest benefit, retail, because retail benefits a lot from pulling together data from different sources because they can do better at targeting and they can see immediate response, immediate lift in their return on their marketing efforts. So it's very clear value. Try to sell a CDP to university where people don't buy that often and the benefit is not so obvious, much harder to sell. So you start with the easy stuff. You start with the ones where you can find, you build your technology to track them and to really focus on that, and then you expand from there. That's my thought.
Thank you very much. That's all we can take. Please put your hands together for our first keynote speaker, Mr. David Rabb. We'll still have an opportunity to ask questions. As I said, it's going to be an interactive session. We still have another keynote, a fireside chat, a video to watch. And at this point, I'd like to call upon people that we refer to as our co-creators and our partners. I'm speaking about the government because it's very important when we're formulating policies that we have the right policies to support the tech ecosystem. So I'll be calling on the special advisor to Mr. Governor on innovation and technology to deliver a goodwill message. So please put your hands together for Mr. Tubosun Alake. A warm round of applause for him.
Good morning. Yes, it's still morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm certainly enthused and excited to be here. I'm in the presence of friends, and what can I say? David, I think that was very apt. You went into a lot of areas that I deal with on a daily basis. Our innovators and technologists and things, people in that sector, we deal quite a bit with, how should we go about solving this problem, or what kind of techniques can we use to skin the cat, if you will. So I don't know what else I can add, but just to say we are extremely supportive of the innovation industry. We are extremely supportive of all sectors, but we're extremely supportive of innovation because we see the promise it holds in improving the standards of living of our people. In my portfolio, on a day-to-day basis, is executing the enabling levers for innovation in Lagos. And so whether that is funding the startups directly or contributing to enabling policies, that is what I live and breathe every day. And so for events and initiatives such as this, I always feel at home. I'm always excited to see what could be cooked up, for lack of a better term, And just to add a few words, there is no sector that is immune to disruption, And as we've all heard, it renders so many business models and so many old ways of doing things obsolete. And so technology, we think, when applied with the right antecedents, holds the promise of building a better world. In medicine, for instance, recent breakthroughs in artificial intelligence and biotech have really pushed the envelope on precision medicine, right? Gone are the days where you are making a drug that is for everybody. Now, R&D is going the level of making individual drugs based on your nervous system. That means your own health quirks. The drugs will be designed just for you and nobody else. It will work just for you and not the next person. Why? Because your own health nervous system, your own blood streams, the proteins in there, your DNA, all of these things are unique to you. And so what biotech is really doing is understanding and personalizing medicine for everybody. And that is a major disruption, in my opinion. Now, I don't know whether that is going to change the sellers of the medicine, because I know a lot of these, the Pfizers, and the Mercks, they are on an acquisition spree at the moment. And so in that traditional sense of disruption, would it happen? I don't know. But there is disruption technically going on in the medical field. And it's things like this that get me out of bed, things like this that get me excited. It's things like this that we want to see happen in this market. In construction and the building sector, advanced manufacturing and BIM. For anybody that is in construction, you'll know when I say BIM, Building Information Management. It's allowing for raw materials innovation, and more personalized manufacture of more personalized and efficient products. Of course, in robotics and AI, especially in countries like Japan, robots are replacing humans in performing certain tasks. And they are getting quite good at it. Of course, in places like Japan, where the population is aging, there's much more rapid innovation in robotics. And of course, blockchain, that is seeking to upend the conventional web structure that we have today. So, I mean, there is a lot of technical innovation going out there. And of course, in marketing, in the recent past, just like David said, the convergence with technology has really been turbocharged with the advent of the internet and the growth of the social media giants. So, I mean, as innovators, I think we must continue to have a curious mindset. And that curiosity should always lead to experimentation. How can we do this better? I think, in marketing, curiosity and experimentation coupled with the right intent, I think magic and disruption can happen. And so, we've seen that every technical innovation and disruption had an intent behind it. In disrupting and innovating in marketing, what is the intent, right? And I don't know, is it awareness? Is it selling? Is it advocacy? Is it, telling the right stories for human benefit? For people like Elon Musk, what wakes him up every night is, sustainability and the survival of our species, and that's why you have Tesla, that's why you have SpaceX, and he has a goal that, look, we must be on Mars by a certain time. So the intent can really drive innovation. Rationale can really drive disruption. So the question for us today is, what is the intent for us? What is the rationale? I believe the strength and the probity of the intent, will drive a lot of disruption and innovation. So I will leave the question of the intent to all of us here. Thank you very much.
I think we can do better than that. Please put your hands together for the special advisor to Mr. Governor on innovation and technology, and a lot to think about. I think the fireside chats will explore some of those questions when we look at the real intent, especially from the place of a brand. I know we have lots of agencies here, and they'll really benefit from that insight. So we'll have a video play, and then we'll move to our fireside chat, and then our second keynote, questions and answers, and wrap the event. Please, let's continue to post those pictures and videos using hashtag MarkHack. So MarkHack, MarkHack, and feel free to tag GDM Group and Eco Innovation Center, the organizers of this event. So we'll have the lights dimmed if possible, and fix our eyes on the screen for the next video to play.
You can use the machine learning and AI to create personal experiences. And what we hear from our customers regularly is, we don't want to be a bunch of dots and spots. We want to have a relationship with you.
Like most people, we do real-time testing and get actual customer feedback and try to co-create with customers. I still believe good old-fashioned market research with strong quant is an important practice. And then from the analytics themselves, you can start to see certain trends. For example, one of our most successful product launches was a card called Sapphire Reserve. Market research told us that millennials were valuing experiences more than stuff, and we loaded up the benefit of that card around travel and dining, and people understood the rational value for the card, but they also understood the aspirational value of it, and it took off in a way that we didn't expect.
Last year, we changed the whole organization in order to create a customer experience department. Before we launch anything, it's really our challenge to ensure that we are enhancing people's experience. We always leave an empty chair in the table, and we always say that this is the customer's chair. So we always have their idea or their point of view when we are deciding things. And it's something which the teams are really understanding when there's an empty chair there.
Do you literally have an empty chair there?
We literally have an empty chair in every meeting.
We did a lot of work with our core customers, and when they clearly told us loud and clear is they don't want a typical loyalty program. They don't want to be incentivized they want to be included. They want to be a part of our process. So doing Google Hangouts with some of our core customers to show them the product roadmap, doing things like informal focus groups or shopping events where they're giving us feedback on future product development or telling us where we should take those things. That in turn then gives us built-in sort of double reward system where we're being rewarded by their phenomenal insight. They're being rewarded because they feel closer to the brand than any loyalty program could have made them feel. And now we're working at ways to scale that, but in ways that are thoughtful and not too regimented or certainly not too systematized.
What has become clear watching these videos is the fact that consumers want to be a part of this process, and anything that's able to empower the consumer is something that is definitely welcome. Just listening to the essay about how you will have precision medicine where the drug is for that consumer, I believe a lot of consumers want to know that whatever product is for them, specifically for them. So I'm really looking forward to our fireside chat. I'd like to invite Zone AOA Assistant Regional Manager, Sub-Saharan Africa for Nestle. Please put your hands together for Mr. Kayode Oladapo. A warm round of applause for him. So I'll start by asking, why a marketing hackathon? You've seen what's going on. You've seen the press. For someone who has been in the brand space for, I dare say, 2 decades, why do we need to hack, marketing? And are you excited about technology coming into this space? Can we have a member of the multimedia team confirm that his sound is working, or if we can get a microphone to him if that's not working?
No, so Isabella, for your first question, am I excited? I am, right? I think the idea of technology coming into the marketing space is an existential crisis, right, that it's going to resolve. I think in markets like this especially, we struggle, right? We struggle a lot. I was just reflecting, and Tubosun was talking about what keeps Elon Musk awake. I think he's on a higher level reality than I am. The list of things that keeps me awake are limitless, and they constantly change. Diesel prices being one of them, but... But when I just think about, my everyday reality, when I think about what keeps me awake, from a work perspective, if I could just get the clicker, I think in 2014, just evolving into, just evolving into, some senior level of brand management. We had gone through our annual planning process. And we had a new CEO at the time in Nigeria, and we worked very hard for about 3 months going through consumer insights, trade insights, competitor insights. I've got a few of those competitors in here who made life very challenging. Just saying hello, no pressure. And we went through all of this process, and we then presented this plan, and it was a very robust plan. We went through it for hours, ran through the slides, and this guy was silent throughout. And at the end, he quoted this slide. He said, I've listened to everything you've said. Hello? It works? Okay. So he said, I've listened to everything you've said, but at the end of the day, half of all advertising spend is a waste. I think the real problem is we don't know which half is a waste. And it took me a few seconds to process that. And basically what he was saying is that we shouldn't have a job. in marketing, right? If you say that every single thing we do is a waste, why should we be employed? I think since that moment, every single night when I have those flashbacks, I wake up asking, the things that we do, does it really matter? Does it make a change, right? It gets even more interesting when you think that what we do is not really that complicated. At the heart of generating demand, we do two things, right? We are obsessed with physical availability, so we want our products to be, available in as many places, in the right frequency and the right magnitude. And we want mental availability, creating, memory structures and mental nodes for humans to make sure that when the purchase decision is being made, you choose our brands, our products over any other. So it doesn't look that complicated, right? So why should he have a challenge on how marketing works? Why should he even say that, marketing doesn't work, right? Why should anybody think that? And I think, a lot of times I tell myself, it's okay for him to challenge us. We know marketing works, right? I think one of the things that we are never sure of is what part of marketing works, right? And I think my colleagues from the agencies here don't like me very much because I'm constantly asking those questions. So when you say, am I excited about MarkHack? I'm super excited because I think, the time has come, similar to what Subosu mentioned about health, right? That precision marketing needs to start, right? That we need to start understanding what really shifts the needle, right? And the idea is not so that we spend less. The idea is that we milk the assets, right? Because, at the end of the day, every single time I'm talking to my team, I keep saying to them, we have only one job, to make sure that the return on investment for investors is at optimal capacity and we leave nothing on the table, right? But beyond that, our real fundamental role is to make sure that in the things we do, there is no waste and consumers get the maximum experience at the lowest possible cost, right? Because whether we want to admit it or not, ultimately the person that pays for the efficiency of the waste is the consumer. And our job is to give them the best possible experience at the lowest possible cost and lowest possible stress levels, right? So when I think about the MarkHack, what are the things that excite me? So I just basically thought about a few of the things that I'm frustrated about that I think I would like to see some changes in.
So your pain points.
My pain points. The ones that keep me up at night, in addition to diesel prices and price of fish in the market, which my wife complains about now. Yes, but my pain points on marketing. And I think, I think the first one is I usually don't see marketing as communication. I think it's one part of marketing. I think that I like to look at it a bit more holistically from the mindset of generating demand. And I think that, there are two broad segments, and we like to call it sales and marketing, but I think it's really about generating demand. And one of the things that I've always thought of, and if you remember, I was just saying that at the bottom or the fundamental level of all we do, we want to make our products available at scale, and we want to make our share of mind top-notch with consumers. So if that's what we want to do, then you start to ask yourself, what's marketing without product availability, right? And is there marketing in the journey to product availability? Of course there is. I mean, especially in climes like this where we have significant levels of trade marketing infusion for us to get the consumer presence, where we want it. And it was interesting when David was talking, and he was talking about the possibilities with tech, and marketing. And I was just saying to myself, every time I'm fortunate to be in Europe or, in certain climes, I look at what is available there and what is happening. And I ask myself, how many years would it take for us to get that? But on the flip side, I was just reflecting on what you were saying earlier, when you talked about your cousin and you deliberating on mobile phones in Benin Republic. I think the optimism I have is Nigeria consistently leapfrogs technology, right? So I know that we can catch up very quickly. And I think that's why there's no more opportune time than this to be talking about marketing hackathons. So if I look at the route to market reality that we have, Nigeria is such a fragmented marketplace, especially for industries like ours, the FMCG space. And the cost to serve is high, right? If you're a small business starting up, you can use social commerce, you can leverage technology, and it's great, and you can maybe serve 100,000, 200,000, maybe even 1 million consumers, right? But when you think about the fact that you're in a 200+ million population and you need to drive this at scale, then you would understand that the cost of infrastructure to reach those people, because of how young our route to market evolution has been, is phenomenal. It's a lot of cost, right? And if it was only more efficient, we could reach more people at higher scale at a lower cost, right? So the question is, how do we drive or leverage technology to drive market penetration, right, more efficiently? How do we go from, part 2 is where we are, right, where you've got everything from distributors to wholesalers to retailer 1, 2, 3, before you get to the mom and pop stores, before you finally pick product, right? And I think a few years back, we were all excited about the evolution of modern trade, the ShopRites, the SPARs coming in. But brick and mortar is very expensive, Isabella, and we also see that there's been a slowdown in investments in these channels, right? And maybe the contribution today, depending on the industry, will be between 5 and 15%, right? So the bulk of all consumer interactions with products is still primarily in the traditional trade environment. How do we leverage technology to take us to that hybrid where the consumer doesn't have to go through this multi-step process to find the products and the services they want? How do we basically take it, like what David was saying, to, awareness, intent, purchase? Why do they have to go through several layers of pain, right? Why does the industry have to invest so much in brick and mortar, so much in infrastructure, so much in people to, drive an inefficient process to deliver products? So I'm very excited about the fact that over the next 6 weeks, we might start to find solutions there, right? But that's just one. I was sharing a joke with someone recently. I mean, every now and again, depending on how the week is, if you live in Lagos and you have to drive in traffic, there are some days when on your way home, you just want to stop for a drink, right? And I'd stopped for a beer recently, and I sat down there, just wanted to have a cold beer, go home. And 2 ladies came up to me as brand ambassadors to tell me about what kind of beer I should drink. And I had to be polite and smile and say, thank you, thanks for sharing this. But, in retrospect, I was thinking, I came here, I know what I want to drink, right? I actually wanted to have this beer in peace. So did you add value to me or did you get me upset, right?
But doesn't that tie into David's point about educating the market? So perhaps there's a new beer in town that you're not aware of.
I agree, and it does, right? It does. The question is, what's the receptivity at that point? Am I the consumer that should be told that at that point, or is it a different kind of consumer? And that brings me also to another point. You see, the idea is we've got so much data. Nigeria is not data dark, like we like to think. The thing is that we've got data that is not structured, and as such, we've not pulled insights from them, right? If I'm coming into the beer parlor and I've already ordered my beer, maybe you want to tell me about that beer when I've had the first one. I'm a bit less tense. I'm not worried about the traffic and people scratching my car. My receptivity is a bit higher, yeah? And maybe if we were a country that had evolved from a medium-out understanding of touch points to a people-out understanding of touch points, it will be easier to use that insight to talk to me at the point where I'm most receptive, right? Maybe the time to talk to me is before I get to that resto bar or beer parlor, right? Maybe then you tell me what I should try. Then I'm a bit curious. But you don't tell me when I've gone through a lot of tension reality, right? So what do we do with the data we have? How much of consumer understanding are we able to pull out from people's actions, feedback that they give? How do we syndicate all of that to have a data pool that helps us have insights that are actually led by data that we can, act on in a more efficient way to get the right outcome out of consumers? I think that's one of the things I really look forward to, coming from this. And it was interesting to see Victor's slide on the 8 different subject matters. And I know that, consumer experience is one of those, and I'm really looking forward to how we can operate, at a higher efficiency level with that. So it's, that's one of the things, right? Another one would be, and my team constantly comes to me. Sorry, I don't know if that's me. So one of the most interesting conversations I have, again, with my team is when they bring out their plans and they constantly come to me with the concept of brand ambassadors in modern trade, right? And maybe 3 out of 10 times I'll say, okay, it depends on, let's just, sometimes you want people to learn from experience. You know, modern trade is not exactly a, how do you say, random decision-making outlet, right? Most times before people go in there, they're 80% certain of the things they want to purchase, right? A lot of people that go shopping, and I don't say, you know, an expedition or, how do you say now, basically if you go there to really shop, most people who go there to shop don't really enjoy shopping, right? It's a functional reality that you have to go through. You know, I think the last thing people also need when they're going to those places are, you know, that intrusion to say, oh, I want you to come to this aisle. I'm already tired. I'm carrying, you know, baskets. So I asked myself, is that the best way to interrupt consumers, or do we have to have more differentiated, more appealing ways to project ourselves and visibility at point of purchase? So, you know, there are those questions, and I think that data-driven insights would help address some of those pain points to make us more efficient. And again, sincere apologies to my friends from the agency side. I know they have counter-arguments to tell me that it works, you know, but I don't have data to show that it works, right? So when you think about that and you just think about the complicated funnel, right? And it was interesting, the question the gentleman asked earlier about what should I do, right? Yes, when you have limited spend, you're forced to think differently, right? And then you have to look at the entire journey, right? The path to purchase, or the customer journey as we call it. Today in Nigeria, I think, you know, at the risk of being called one of the people that are enabling that, right, we tend to have a spray and stay mindset. We know a lot of things somehow contribute to the purchase decision making, right? And then we do all of those and a bit more. I look forward to the time when we have real attribution modeling for our path to purchase, where we are able to understand the inflection point. What exactly is driving that purchase decision? Right, so, I mean, David alluded to sampling. It's great. I think it's one of the ways to help people understand what you do, right? Merchandising, I think it's great. Visibility at points of purchase, fantastic. Communication, okay, TV, radio, outdoor, digital, all fantastic. But which one of them exactly is shifting the needle? We really don't know, yeah? And my finance colleagues would always call me and say, you know, all this marketing spend, every year you increase the budget. What exactly are you doing? What's working? And we are fantastic people in marketing. We can always justify everything, right? Few PowerPoint slides here and there, English here and there. We give them terminologies that I had to understand even for ourselves. And we justify it. But, you know, in moments of reflection, right, I really can't say which one. Yeah, I just don't have enough data to support it. And, you know, when that time comes when we have real data that shows us what the inflection points are, the idea would not be to spend less. The idea would be to re-energize the spend into the areas that actually make a difference. Right? What do you think happens then? The organization grows, right? Much faster than it should have. Consumers have a better experience because we stop clouding them. Think about the amount of data they have to process every day, right? Just think about young people in Nigeria, and I always feel pain for young people between the ages of 16 and 35, right? Every organization wants them. Think about the amount of data overload that they get. Right? We are talking to them from all angles, badgering them with so many things. Right? We will simplify this. We'll make the experience a bit more pleasurable. And then we get more, they get more, we're able to grow, more opportunities come into the industry, job opportunities are created, the GDP increases, and, you know, everybody is happy. So I think I'm really looking forward to that as well, that we're able to now translate the data we have into real actionable insights. I think that's one of the things that makes me excited about what the Marketing Hackathon will do.
I have a question.
Sure.
Whose responsibility is it to mine the data and give you the insights that you require? Is it the agency? Is it research groups, your Gallup? Who takes responsibility in gathering, mining, and presenting to you, a brand owner, to say, okay, you should spend all your money on this particular channel?
I think the simple answer to that would be it's a shared responsibility. I think there are different inflection points in the data mining process and insight generation and then decision making, right? I think when I think about our research agencies, the Nielsen's and Kantars of this world, they do a bit of that work because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, think about it. FMCG organizations like myself, we actually do just two things, right? We make products and we sell products, right? And that's where our competence lies. Everything else in between is either service rendered from outside or, you know, service rendered from inside. So there are lots of people who basically should do that. I think what technology would help us do is start to centralize that understanding, and then maybe with AI, maybe with just better understanding and harder work, we're able to then say this is what we should do. But I think it's a joint responsibility, and I think there are multiple players within that. But I think tech would help us centralize that. Today we have so much fragmented information all over the industry that it's difficult to know who knows what, right? And I remember we used to have a saying in my organization, if only we knew what we knew, we will do so many things so much better, right? So again, the data is there, what do we do with it and how do we mine it? So I think there are lots of people within that space. And I think this would help us centralize that a little bit more. I think one more area that I constantly think about when I think about the amount of money we spend is in communication, right? And we're having an interesting debate last week, and that brought me to this point, and it's about media equivalence, right? And I was talking to my media planner, and he gave me this fantastic plan, really good, lots of numbers on a very big broadsheet, and then he said, summary of this is spend 60% on TV, spend 10% on radio, spend 20% on outdoor, and spend another 10% on digital. And I said, okay, but why, right? How does this help me? So we looked at the TV plan, and he was talking about lots of stations, and maybe because I don't really watch TV, I didn't have a lot of appreciation for some, but he was talking about this channel I had to go look up called Z World, and I said, why? Oh, because certain people watch it in Lagos, and I said, okay. But if my goal is to sell as much products as I can, to as many people as I can, as frequently as I can, should it be your qualitative insights that are driving it, or the quantitative reach curves, right? Are we really maximizing this? Now, okay, let's go to the reach curve. It says the reach, I agree, fine, but tell me, why outdoor, right? How many people I reach with that outdoor? Oh, we don't know. So why did you recommend it? We have a feeling that there are lots of cars that pass here because of traffic, it works, right? At the end of the day, sometimes I have to go with these suggestions, right? But I go with it with a nagging concern at the back of my mind that I'm not so sure that's optimal, right? So I'd really like to have a bit more reassurance in those type of spends, right? The second question is, when you say to me, digital is really good, social commerce is good, advertise on Facebook, I agree. But there's also something about retention, depending on size of screen, right? So the question for me is, how many times does the consumer need to see an ad on Facebook to get the same retention that they will get if they watch it on TV, right? I don't know the equivalence. If I knew it, I'll be able to decide where I put, what to, right? What's the impact of a gigantic LED versus, a super big wall branding? I don't know, right? So we go at these things with gut feel. It would be way better if we had tech guiding us, right? Because there's a dispassionate view when tech is involved, right? And it takes away the human element. And then I'm not able to say, please advertise on BBC Entertainment because I like to watch Top Gear. It won't be about me anymore, right? Maybe actually Z World will be the answer. I don't know, maybe radio will be the answer, I don't know, but then at least it's data-driven. So I think that excites me. I think, at the end of it all, one of the things that tech has done very well today is data, right? It has been able to help us understand more, yeah? The challenge, though, is in markets like this, we don't have enough syndicated data, right? And I can say for sure when brand managers have their moments with agencies, one of the biggest area of conversation is market share data, right? If your market shares are great, the agency is fantastic, Nielsen is doing a great job. If 2 years later your market share is deep, so something is wrong with Nielsen's coverage, right? And Kantar's panel is not very good. And myself and my friend, we used to have this. When we used to have market share exchanges, 1 year I'm great, the next year is great. We used to, let's come back and check. We don't have enough syndicated data, right? And as such, every time we commission researches, we spend way more than we should, yeah? If the data was sitting in a central warehouse where we could all access it, we're making better decisions. And then when we add that to our first-party data, like David was attributing to, we start to have some competitive advantage, right? So I think this is also one of the places that I'm hoping that, tech can help us get way better. Because at the end of the day, again, it's really about how do we sweat the assets, right? If you're a factory manager in a factory, you want to get the maximum production out of your team, out of your raw materials, out of your machinery, right? You want your capacity utilizations to be hitting about 85, 90% at minimal cost. It's the same with marketing, right? I think ultimately, sum total of it is spend efficiency. And spend efficiency is not about saving money only. It's about delivering better experiences to our consumers with less hassles, right? And giving them, the most robust experience the brand can give. So that
when the memory structures are being built in their minds from the multiple touch points that we get them through, the receptivity is more positive than negative, right? Nobody wants a brand that stresses them out. Everybody wants a brand that gives them pleasurable experiences, social equity, and consumer pleasurable experiences, basically. So I think that is the sum total, right? What I'm really looking forward to is how tech is going to take us there, simplify the process, give us way more intelligence to act, right? Better experiences and more spend efficiency. So I think, look, I can't say thank you enough to Victor and the curators of Marketing Hackathon. I think we're really looking forward to it, and I'm hoping over the next 6 weeks we'll get good things out.
Thank you very much. You know, if we're going to clap, I think we can clap better. We've been refreshed by several brands. So I've already started asking questions. I think it's only right that we throw the floor open for questions. If we do have any questions from our virtual audience, please, I'll only take 3. So I've seen Nengi, I've seen, oh wow, there are quite a number of questions. So the great thing about technology is there's social media. These days, you meet someone, you can probably find them with a few clicks, and if they're receptive enough, you know, about identifying the right time to ask those questions. Because listening to you, I got the sense of that beer brand did you dirty because they did not do their homework to know when to approach you. So maybe anytime you recall that brand, it will be associated with that negative experience of the brand ambassadors. So I'll take Nengi's question first. I'll take, are there any other women here? Because the men have been asking all the questions. Okay, I'll take your question in front, and the one whose hand is very high up, and the final question. So can we have the microphone? The usher, please, can you have the microphone to my left?
Is it okay? Thank you very much. Hi, Kayode. So the summary of my question is, how are we currently collaborating with tech companies at the moment? I know you said you are looking forward to, MarkHack and the fresh ideas, that could come out of this, but how are we currently collaborating? And I would elaborate. First of all, you talked about the attribution model, which I believe a lot of marketers understand that that's a pain. But do you think tech companies offering services would be at the forefront of helping with the attribution process? Bearing in mind that a lot of performance marketing is used, right, in this space, and the channels that they use to communicate to their audience, like apps, are very data-driven, right? So I would give an example. For Fair Money, where I work, we give loans and banking services to micro businesses and individuals. And in most cases, we know how they're using this loan. Sometimes for businesses, they want to scale their business, they want to buy stock, which a product like Nescafe, for example, would be featured, right? So if we believe this, right, how much are FMCG companies really collaborating with these kind of players to further understand the user, and enable, more efficient processes? If we've also complained about, the cost to serve, this, in my opinion, will be one of the very easy wins, low-hanging fruits that we can take advantage of or leverage, especially with the new season of collaboration, right? We're not competitors, so why don't we collaborate to show better?
Okay, I'll take 2 more questions so that Mr. Ladako can answer all of them. So can we have the mic go to the front, to the gentleman to my right and the gentleman in glasses?
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Christopher Ogu.
I have a question for the previous speaker before him, and also for everyone here, and also for, of course, Mr. Kayode. My question is targeted towards the uneducated, because they also are part of the market space, and they are a very viable market that one can actually harvest from. But we don't know the statistics. For instance, in Lagos State, if I want to work with the uneducated, what percentage are they? How do I get to know the stat? How do I get to know, okay, in this particular local government, I have this number of educated and uneducated persons? Is there like a national or a Lagos State database where I can go online and check, okay, in this particular area, I have this number of persons, I have this number of persons. If I can get that information, then I can plan my business and my marketing with that information. Is there a market, is there an information base where I can get that information?
Thank you. Can we have the next question? Please, let's keep the questions brief. Behind him, there's the gentleman in glasses, because we still need to have our keynote speaker, who's come all the way from the United Kingdom. We want to keep him waiting. So please, with your question.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very much, sir. And Mr. Kayode, I really love your personality. We met some hours ago. And I would like to ask this question. You said something concerning your company offering to your customers, that's maximum experience, lowest possible cost at the lowest possible stress level. Now, I'm speaking mostly for the SMEs. When everything is very, very expensive, the raw materials, we don't have enough consumers like your brand and things like that, what are the advice you can use to give SMEs to really come up? And also, she asked a little bit of my question about data analysis. Mr. David made a very good point about the data is key, but with my little experience with being a self-entrepreneur, I noticed that consumers don't really trust small scales with their data. So how can we collaborate to get what the consumers really want? And lastly, this question goes to the SA, to the Lagos State of Innovation. Concerning the innovation plans for SMEs, are there any innovation plans? I've not heard of any, or maybe I'm not current enough, but what are the plans the Lagos State have for SMEs concerning innovation?
Thank you. I'm not sure Mr. Alake is still here, but I'm sure you can reach out to the organizers with your question and it can be passed on. I think it was the gentleman wearing glasses. Please keep your question very brief, because we'll have about 5 minutes to go through all the answers. Very quickly, please.
Okay, my name is Obafemi Samuel. I'm from the Q Company. So the question I want to ask is based on data, and this is something I usually have in my mind. Now, we're living in a world where data is really important, but at the same time, people have started becoming sensitive to the use of data, right? And of course, data has helped a lot of marketing firms to do better advertising in the past. But do you think that we're getting to a point where data or the use of data will start to backfire on marketing? Because a lot of people now don't want to even discuss, because I mean, someone will be discussing about something on WhatsApp and then goes to Instagram and starts seeing ads about that. And that terrifies people. There are people that don't even like to interact with these ads anymore simply because of that. So is there a possibility, this is just a thought I have in my mind, that data will start to backfire on marketing? Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. And final question, the gentleman, please put your hand up. Yes. I'm sorry if we're not able to take your questions, but we're being very time conscious.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Mr. Kayode. Okay, so I'm just going to go directly to say I really appreciate what you have done here with your presentation. Leveraging data by brands in Nigeria, I find, is something that is progressive. And as much as brands in Nigeria are not doing so much with data. There are brands that are actually doing it. There are brands that are actually getting some kinds of results using data, using technology to improve their processes. So what I find, or what would be my question is, why do we still stay in Nigeria and do business? And when marketing leaders want to make decisions, they leverage on things like experience instead of asking questions like, how can data help me make this decision, or which technology is available for this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I see Mr. Ladapo has been taking down all the questions. So please, I'll crave your indulgence if we can keep the answers to about 5 minutes so we can move to our second keynote. I mean, we encourage everyone to still stay back and network and maybe have your questions answered if possible. I'm not sure Mr. Lake is still here, so that question to him won't be answered. Please continue to share all these valuable insights and experiences. You say thank you for a great presentation. Go a step further and share it across your social media platforms using hashtag MarkHack. And it's still MarkHack 1.0. So are you ready with the answers?
Yeah, so let me take a crack at them, right? I'll start with Nengi. I think the question about collaborations, I think it's always happened, right? And I know you and I have worked together in the past, and I think one of my most notable sayings is, I personally do not enjoy the term or the concept of working with agencies. I always prefer to build partners, right? And it's because there's so many overlaps in the things we do that for us to really maximize the benefits of the interaction, we have to think like partners, thinking about the future, and have more like a joint business plan on how we win with consumers, right? So if I think about FMCG, yes, there's a lot of collaborations happening currently with tech companies. And I know for a fact that there are several initiatives currently happening from the route to market perspective, right? A lot of investment is happening. People are beginning to build B2B interactions and enabling more efficient flow of products to last mile, right? And there's a lot of conversations also happening about the B2C leg of it, that, when we do this push, leveraging tech, how do we pull out those products and get proximity purchase happening, within geotagged environment? So there are things like that. I think it will be different from one industry to another, one organization to another. And what I recommend is that if you are able to project what the value is that you offer, the data you have, the services you render to the organization who needs it the most, understanding the pain point, I'm sure that they're all open to collaborations, right? And that's how the current collaborations have happened. If someone walks up to me and says, I've got a more efficient way of helping you drive product through and pull out of your warehouse into the end purchase of the mom and pop store, I will jump at it, right? Because it helps with efficiency and reduces cost. So I think the collaboration mindset is there. It is happening currently. To what extent with what organization will depend. It's a case by case basis, right? So I think push the envelope, explore those options, knock on doors, talk about what you do, and you'd find that you're able to open up those collaborative relationships, right? I think that would be my simple summary to that. I don't know if it answers your question, except you're asking if I want to collaborate with you, and that would have to discuss separately, right? But yeah, there's always room for collaborations across industries. I think on your question about database existing, right? I think I'll defer to Bosun, who is not here, or Mr. Fafore, who will know. I personally think that there is some capture, right? How clean and usable that data is, I'm not sure. But I think, maybe post this while we're having coffees, you can talk to Mr. Fafore. I'm sure he'll be able to guide you a bit more on the formal, informal sector data collation that the government has, because they have to have some. They've done quite a lot of work with the informal sector, right? And I know, Fafore, you've done quite a bit of work with them. He can point you in the right direction, right? So hopefully that actually answers your question. So please feel free to collaborate and have a bit more conversation. Look, I think to your question about SMEs, this is what's funny. Even with large multinational organizations, right, investment funds is finite. It's not like an inexhaustible pool. And what I'll recommend is that, I think at the heart of it, really understand what truly matters to your consumers, right? I think that will help you a lot. And I think after that, just follow what Einstein said, right? Keep things as simple as possible, but no simpler than that. You know, don't try to create a complicated marketing process. Do what really matters, hit at the heart of it, and don't do too many things. You know, do a few things, do them big, do them bold, and do them better than everyone else, right? And you'll be able to maximize the efficiency of your spend, okay? But I think we all face the same challenge. Nobody has limitless spends. Even the multinationals struggle to find more budget consistently. I think on data collation and how consumers trust, you know, if I take myself as an example, I think I'm constantly paranoid as to what my digital footprint is and what organizations are doing with it, right? But if you're a small organization and you want to, you know, get data, I think what I'll recommend, again, is that through every interaction you have with the consumer, build trust, right? Use the data for what it should be used for and use it responsibly. You know, and if with the data you've gotten so far, you create delight for them, they'll be a bit more open to sharing more with you, right? For as long as they know that they are not being taken advantage of and it does not compromise them. Yeah? But it's not an absolute science. It will always depend on the people, you know, their receptivity at the moment, and it's a case-by-case reality.
Sorry,
right?
we'll have to move. Maybe in a minute, you can just wrap up the last answer.
Good. No, so I think I've got a few more questions. I think, you know, just to touch on one point that you mentioned, that when organizations are making decisions, they go for experienced hands and not data. I think just to clarify that, experience is actually data, right? It's a lot of data, and it's a lot of data that's been translated into actionable insights, right? So maybe that's why they go for it. So experience and data are not mutually exclusive. So maybe that's why. But we can always catch up after the session to answer a few more questions if you want to. Okay.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for Mr. Kayode Oladapo, Zone AOA Assistant Regional Manager, Sub-Saharan Africa, Nestle. Yes, thank you very much. We apologize that the session stretched a bit, but next we're going to have our keynote speech. That's the second keynote speech. I'll just ask the team to prepare the stage for our second keynote speaker. Dim the lights as we watch his introductory video, and then we'll welcome him with a warm round of applause. So if we can have the video play as the stage is prepared for our second keynote speaker.
Dr. Rotimi Olaniyan. Dr. Rotimi has had a broad-spectrum marketing career spanning 30 years in several strategic marketing roles with experiences across a few countries and cultures, including the UK. He has operated as a business founder and served as managing director and agency head for a series of marketing consultancies. Dr. Rotimi Olaniyan is a practice-oriented scholar and currently serves as the lead for the full-time MBA course, working with the MBA portfolio leader to ensure success across design, recruitment, delivery, and student experience across all full-time MBA cohorts. He is currently the principal partner at Apex Marketing UK and full-time MBA program lead at Nottingham Business School. He also leads the Strategic Global Marketing module on the MSc Marketing, as well as the Marketing and Customer Thinking module on the MSc Innovation and Entrepreneurship courses, respectively. Ladies and gentlemen, speaking at MarkHack 1.0, Dr. Rotimi Olaniyan.
Clear? All right, so thank you for that. Just to say this, I'm a Lagos boy, true and true, and Lakwe can testify, to that. We started our careers literally on the same day in Cadbury, some 30 plus years ago. By the way, as my slides please, but as those slides have been set up, just very quickly, 22 years ago, I left my career. I left Colgate-Palmolive, where I was working, to join my mentor then, Mr. George Thorpe, to start the first database marketing company in Nigeria. very, very excited by the potential of being able to use data to change the way in which marketing decisions were being made. I knocked on the doors of all the multinationals, several companies for literally a year and sold not one contract. I was saying that to Victor. So it's really very exciting to hear the conversation that's going on today. And it's not surprising. We live in a very interesting country which has a huge potential and yet has a lot of contradictions. And one of those contradictions really is about institutions and infrastructure. And whether we understand it or not, data in itself is an infrastructure that needs to be developed. Just very quickly to speak to the point which I think is the gentleman who spoke earlier made. If you're not able to cross-reference contact data, transactional data, and behavioral data, then you're not really going to be able to create valuable information in the way in which marketing requires data to use, to make good decisions. Then, of course, there's the other issue, which is you need it to be a stream. It has to be a stream which constantly flows. So you can dam the data, create lakes with the data, and then go about using it to do the things that you want. So we've got quite a lot of challenges, that we would need to set up. However, I'd like to also, just very quickly before going on, also want to just salute the courage of the guys at Co-Innovate, the GDM group. I think what is going on here today is such a very important aspect of what our community of practice needs. I've worked for so many agencies, or worked with a lot of colleagues here to build quite a few agencies, and I kind of understand the challenge that we're faced with. The truth of the matter is that the agency model has to change, and it cannot change from within. Let's take one case. Look at the route to market. The technology guys have come and completely disrupted that space. Traditionally, former CEOs or former sales directors or marketing directors and agencies should be the ones who should have actually innovated that space. So there's a lot of work that we need to do. And so I want to just speak to the innovators, really, in terms of, can I have my slides, please? In terms of what, is that working? Okay. Right, so in terms of my objective, I've got 20 minutes, I'm told. I might take a little bit more, but really my objective is to speak to those of you who ultimately think they have the potential to create innovation. And the reason is because I've kind of worked in this area for some time. And now, after about some years back, in 2015, I decided 2017, to go and take a break from practice and think, and hopefully write a book or two. And now I've got this very, very enjoyable job of working with young people from all over the world who come in the entrepreneurship and innovation space, looking to think through their ideas for about a year, and we help them with respect to the marketing side of it. And so this is part of what this is going to be, to give you some very, hopefully, home truths about what it means and what it takes to be able to truly create innovative solutions for a market context such as us, or such as ours. But before we do that, let me try and see how much of digital natives you are. Here, you've got something. What do you guys call it? What do you call it? What do you call it? Okay, great. So you call it what? A dustbin. What do you call it? A waste bin. What else? You call it a trash can. All right, good. The English, the British will call it a rubbish bin. The Americans will call it a garbage can. I don't know, we call it all sorts of things, but that's not what's important. The key question here is, what do you think you'll find inside this? A, problems. B, solutions. C, opportunities. D, people. That's a bit scary. E, all of the above, or D, none of them at all. Now, what I'd like you to do is, if you've got some data and you're happy to invest in it, I'd like you to go on to www.menti.com and just type in the code that you see there. I'll read the code out. So when you get into www.menti.com, please type in 3533986, and let's hope the technology doesn't fail me. Okay? Can anyone just let me know when For those of you, have you gotten in? All right, then just answer the question. What do you think you will find there? Problems? Solutions? That's B. C, opportunities. D, people. E, all of the above. Or F, none of the above. Now we will move to the next slide, and I'll ask the tech guys there to please support by going to the... could you please do that? Are you able to do that? Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. Excellent. No, it didn't come through. Do you want to try it again? It does require some nifty fingers. Right. Could you then also press on present? Hopefully we should be able to then... If you press on present, are you able to do that? Are you able to do that? Okay. If not, what I'll suggest you do is fiddle with it, and we'll come back to it at the end of... Or could you click on results, and let's see whether it works. No, not there. Click on that one and see if it works. Yeah, and let's see what happens. Hopefully that might work as well. It should take you to the results page. Do we have any luck? No. We have 56 people who have actually voted, so we know that for sure. Okay. No, you've not. Yeah, you need to be able to manipulate it properly from there. But we know 56 people have voted. What I will do is, if you can... Okay, let's see if that's... Yeah. That might work. And then click on present. That's it. That blue, the blue something at the very end, not there at the end. Oh, yes. Thank you. Hopefully that should work. Present. Hopefully you should get the scores. No? Okay, so what we'll do is let me allow you to try and carry on. You just see if you can get that, and then you can screen dump it or something, and we'll come back to it. And if we could go back to my presentation. But it's an interesting question, which ultimately intended to help us understand part of the challenges that you will face if you truly want to innovate in verticals. Okay, could we go on to the next, to my slides, please? We'll come back to the results when you're able to get it. Okay. All right, but first let me start by telling the story. In 2017, I decided, as I said, to take time off, to go and start the process of trying to understand how to be a better researcher. Now, that gentleman over there who has his neck bent, his name is Michael Herrod. And I met him in 2017 because we became colleagues. And Michael, at the time, was an associate professor, and his passion was to research areas of marketing and digitization. And ultimately, given the background that I had had, and the fact that I had some years back tried to start a company in data and literally failed to win a contract in an entire year, we really got talking and started basically a relationship. And that relationship led us to a point where, given, again, our shared and common interest, where we came to a point where we had a question, a research question we really wanted to tackle. And that is, how do marketing-led technology innovations emerge, and how do they grow in chaotic market domains? And I've underlined chaotic market domains. I'll repeat the question. This basically formed the strategic question that Michael and I, for the next couple of, basically since 2017, have been trying to answer. How do marketing-led innovations, marketing-led technology innovations emerge, and how do they grow, and particularly grow fast in chaotic market domains? Now, you might ask me, what do I mean when I use the phrase chaotic market domains? Let's quickly look at some of the literature with respect to marketing-led innovation and what it means. So what exactly is a marketing-led innovation? This is innovation that can be defined as the effective application of processes and products new to the world, okay, and that are designed to be of benefit to that organization itself, which is the venturing company, and indeed all its stakeholders. That's what we mean when we use the phrase marketing-led innovation. Now, what types of marketing innovation domains are there? We have 4. And the easiest is the most obvious. You can choose to innovate in an obvious market. Now, what's an obvious market? An obvious market is where all the knowns are known. Okay? And typically, where all the knowns are known, you really don't need radical innovation. All you need is incremental innovation. All right? So you're not going to be as dramatic as Elon Musk and the rest of them, but you will make impact of some kind. Now, the next is that you might have a complicated market where the knowns are not known. All right? In that case, what your approach would be is to go with radical innovation. And then you've got typical complex markets where you find quite a lot of, particularly in Europe and in the West, a lot of markets are complex. The known unknowns, there are known unknowns, and there are unknown knowns. And so typically, radical innovation becomes extremely useful. But then you've got this very peculiar being of a domain which is referred to as the chaotic market. In the chaotic market, nobody knows. And the truth of the matter is this. Part of the conversations that the gentleman from Nestle was speaking about is because we are living in a chaotic market. Nobody knows where the data is. Nobody understands where the information is. We have snippets, but we don't have flows nor streams. We have not institutionalized our data, and therefore it's extremely difficult. Quite honestly, this is a research market. This is a market research market. It's not yet truly a database marketing environment. But it's fast getting there, because whether we like it or not, that is happening. And that's the reason why the biggest game or in today is digitization, because that's what sets you up to then go into becoming, hopefully, some form of a complicated or a complex market. So that basically is part of what we looked at. And then, of course, the next issue was, so within this whole notion of innovation, and I think David spoke to this, there are a whole range of types of innovation. The most dramatic and obviously the most popular is disruptive innovation, which ultimately is about changing the state of the world and creating a new world. That's fundamentally what disruption is. But you've also got other types of ways in which you can innovate. You can innovate applications, you could do product innovation or product-led innovation, and then you've got the very famous one, which is business model innovation, which is you take the way in which the industry ultimately operated and completely change it on its head. And that's what you have with the famous Ubers, the Uberization of the world, as they call it, the Airbnbs, very famous. But interestingly, John Cunningham, who might be a gentleman you know, yes, who is the CTO of the Unlimited Group. Before coming, I asked John a question, because did a summer job with him, spending time to understand how because they're building a new CRM system, or a new approach or philosophy to CRM, and that's a passion area of mine. And I asked him, which company today do you truly admire, John? And he said to me, Amazon. And the reason is because a lot of people think Amazon is just simply the website or the shopping site. It's not. Amazon is a really, really radical, disruptive innovator and has disrupted so many spaces. And what it does is it invests in its data engine. The Amazon data engine, what's happening with AWS and what AWS is now being primed to be able to do for you, actually will be giving small players ability to use AI at massive scale. Massive. They are democratizing technology which big players ultimately thought they had because they had the money to do. So there's a lot that's happening and is about to kick off. But anyway, so there are lots of places in which we can ultimately innovate. So by this time, Mike and I felt very, very comfortable that we had not just a strategic research question that we could then tackle, but that there was something we could ultimately do. And we started to write a paper. And we were so gung-ho about it. And in the summer of 2019, I believe it was, we went off to Naples, Italy. Very nice wine in that place. Very nice wine. And we're really ready to show the world this fantastic work that we had done. It was poorly received. It was poorly received. Yeah, because we thought we were going to get ourselves a 4-star paper. Sadly, we did not. What we got pot shots because we were right there in the thick. If you understand the way, and this I didn't know some years ago, but if you understand the way the academic system works, there are tribes. And we went to the tribes of the guys who are experts in service. Okay, and we came with this concept, which, for those of you who might be familiar with the concept of service dominant logic, yep. Okay. And how co-creation, by the way, is from the service dominant logic. But the point is, we went there and we had something to say, and it was poorly received. But that was perhaps one of the best things that happened to us, because it's also taught me an important lesson. The work of trying to truly understand phenomenon requires time. Okay? And so we went back, tails between our legs, and we got working again. And gradually, we got to a point where we then realized that we could actually tell an important story to the world, because that's really what you're trying to do when you go to these conferences. You're trying to tell an important story that captures the imagination of everyone. And so we returned to first base, which is chaotic markets, right? Now, a couple of years ago, in 2012, do you guys know this company? Paga? You all know Paga? All right. In 2012, Tayo Oviosu and Jay, who were the co-founders of the company, along with Yemi Lalude, who was working at the time in a VC fund, invited me to join the board of Paga. And between 2012 and 2015, I sat on the board of Paga as a non-executive director. But it was a fascinating experience because I literally had the second driver's seat, not the driver's seat, the passenger seat of watching a fintech innovator go through the pain of doing what? Of trying to emerge and grow in under chaotic market conditions. Now, Paga is a fascinating story and on its way to becoming a unicorn, right? On its way to becoming a unicorn in the next one year. It's set up all the things that it needs to do to be able to actually win capitalization at that rate. Now, the thing about Paga is, of course, this is a story in terms of growth. The top there shows you the number of partners, sales agents, right? As we have them, those women who you go to the POS card point. They started this when no one was there, right? They literally started this when no one was there. And they grew from literally having not a single agent by 2011. I joined the board in 2012. And by 2020, they had about 12,000 agents, all right? That's one side of the story. The second side of the story is growth in terms of users. They had literally no one in 2011. But as at the end of 2020, Paga had 20 million users. And I think by last year, they had actually done what? They had, transferred at least ₦1 trillion on behalf of Nigerians. Okay? You cannot get more successful than this as a fintech. But the question is, so these are simple numbers, which are all right, but the more interesting story is what was going on. What was going on? Between 2011 and 2020, there were a range of things happening across different domains of performance. Institutionally, we lived in a chaotic market, right? From a social context, they were building a phenomenal institution called the sales agent network. From the standpoint of service or feature sets, if you speak that language, they pivoted their feature sets and gradually kept changing what Paga could do for you. Does that make sense? Ultimately, the Paga brand kept reinventing itself, right? In terms of what its value proposition was. Now, underpinning all of that, obviously, was technology, because this is a fintech, right? Or so we say, right? It's a fintech, right? Okay, so two key things. The physical structure, which ultimately every innovator will require, and then the physical symbols, which is what you will take AI. I don't care about AI, but Alexa means something to me. In other words, you've taken the voice element of AI, which is, by the way, the fastest growing element of it, and you've created a consumer proposition with it. You've created a physical symbol with it, Alexa, right? And what it can do. And someone spoke to what the Japanese are doing with AI technology to keep very middle-aged men happy in Japan, because Japan has a serious problem, social problem, you know, for those of us who understand that. Now, this is what was going on. The emergence and growth of the fintech over time, in this case, Paga, was through the orchestrated play of constitutive rules of collective intentions. Now, that's the way academics speak. I didn't used to speak like this. All right, but you've got it. Legitimacy means you can use the language, right? Exactly. So I'll say that again so that I really sound smart. The orchestrated play, one, that your physical structure, your technology innovation speaks to the institutional realities of what it means to be in an environment like this. And most importantly, the social structures support it. If any one of those doesn't work, you will end up like me, knocking on doors for a year and not selling one single one. Database marketing solution. Okay? Now, but then in doing this, understand this, and this is the key point, that as service actors, you are the orchestrator. If you're the company, or you're the venturing team, you will be the orchestrator of this ecosystem you're trying to build. Your job is going to be making sure that you are not just covered with your hoodie. I'm happy to use, okay, I'm back. Okay, great. So understand this, that you are not going to be, don't get lost in the code, as we will see. The code is important. There's no doubt about that. Building whatever it is you want to build as an engine is absolutely important. But when you move into this environment, you are an innovator who is trying to bring about a solution that must be embedded in a society. Does this make sense? All right? It has to be embedded in the society. It has to work with everyone else. And one of the most important ways it will have to do that is your job is to bring about this whole notion of what are the constitutive rules. How are we going to constitute this solution? And that means changing it and pivoting it over time. Now, let's therefore say this. By the way, I choose to call it what the Americans call it, which is the garbage can. The British will call it the rubbish bin, but I think the garbage can really has emphasis. This is where 9 out of 10 marketing-led innovations will end up. Do you agree? Yep. Exactly. This is where 9 out of 10 will end up. So if I suspect you are innovators, I'm hoping you are innovators. If I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, sorry, you're out. You will be about the only one. That's the reality of what happens, because it's hard. And there's so many reasons why innovations will fail. You know, this is a bit of a slight, I don't know what happened there, but. And these are the 10 most common causes for failure. The first is the lack of problem identification. Is it your problem, or is it the true problem that the consumer has, or the audience has, or whoever it is? Is it your problem? The second is the lack of the ability to ideate and create good ideas, all right? Yep. The third is that there is poor execution of the idea in itself. And God knows execution is exactly what, that's the job, right? There is, in strategy, what is it? It's in strategy, your executed strategy was your strategy, right? So there is that. Then there is lack of funding, which is what every innovator wants to throw as the excuse. I didn't have anybody to give me money. No. Or support. The lack of a clear roadmap or a plan, implementation challenges. Then there is also this notion of the cultural barrier, which is why the smartest guys in Silicon Valley wait for you to do the job, and then they can give you Series B, C, and D. Because they know that they might not be able to embed the solution properly culturally. All right? Do you want me to give you a classical example? Paystack. Paystack would not have succeeded if, who are the guys who bought into Paystack? Exactly. Do you think Stripe could have come into this environment and worked successfully? There's a cultural challenge. So they came into the Y Combinator, they did all they had to do, they were taught how to ultimately go there and dominate the world, which is what they do when you go to Harvard, they tell you that. Right? And when they got the job done, and it was time for the next, transfer financing, what happens then? So a lot of you need to think very deeply when you're planning out your ventures. Who am I targeting for my first, my second, my third? It's not just about an idea yet. And I hope I'm speaking to innovators, because that's really why I came. I want to speak to innovators, right? Think about that. And then you're going to have a lot of people who tell you you can never do it. Forget about that one. We understand that. And so on and so forth. And then there is this issue of what's referred to as the customer false positives. What's the customer false positive? When you say, that's the person I'm going after, that's the person this solution is meant for. And it turns out that that's not actually the person who needs the solution. So you built an entire strategy, all right, on the wrong customer. And the moment you've done that, as anyone in marketing will tell you, you don't have a product, you don't have a solution. Okay, so think about all those 10. Does it not come back to this? The lack of the orchestrated play of constitutive rules for collective intentions. Would you agree? If you reflect on all those 10, it really comes to this point. So the question, therefore, is this. Can the garbage, rubbish, thrash, solve problems? You know what? I then remembered during my MBA days that there was this thing called the garbage can theory, for those of you who might be familiar with it. It was brought to us by some very interesting professors way back in 1972. And basically what it is that they said that the garbage can is a metaphor for how problem solving actually happens in real life. All right? It suggests that a decision domain, in this case, metaphored by the garbage can, operates as a form of organized anarchy and is made up of problems, solutions, opportunities, and indeed active stakeholders. Okay? And all of them are acting randomly, randomly, as well as independent of each other. So what does that mean? What does that mean? So I know that the tech field does. Very quickly, who here said problems? Just raise, show of hands. Who here said solutions? Okay. Who here said opportunities? Interesting. You're absolutely right. Absolutely, let's be frank. The recycling industry fundamentally, as far as I'm concerned, was founded in Africa. All right? Active stakeholders, people. Who said people? Who said none of the above? And who said all of the above? Very smart people. Excellent, excellent. Because indeed it is. Yes, the garbage can solve problems if you learn how to play with rubbish or thrash or waste. And so what I did is I took that paper and developed a card sort game, which I use with our innovators in our MSc entrepreneurship class. And basically what we do is we go through several rounds of problems, and you pick the card. And whatever it is you get, you do what with? So, for instance, if you pick a problem, frame a problem statement. I don't care what the problem statement is. You just frame one. If you pick solution, you know what? Suggest a solution that is searching for a problem. okay? Or study a participant within a stakeholder group that you might have, and just talk to us about who these people are. And then finally, the easy one, which is where we normally would like to focus, if you're what's referred to as a Carnarian entrepreneur, is you're identifying opportunities. And we're very good at that in this country, right? Opportunity, identifying opportunity that can be exploited very quickly. But then the point here is this: what have we done? We've taken the theory, basically, which was developed in 1972, and all I did was applied gamification to it, and suddenly you need to see when these guys are working with this in class, and in our incubator place there. And what this suddenly showed me is that playbooks are important. Play is important in the way and the manner in which you're going to work and build out successful opportunities. So let's understand what are playbooks. I really got fascinated by the concept of playbooks. Playbooks are dynamic mental models set against a competitive reference that helps all stakeholders and all players on the same team or in the same ecosystem to ultimately understand how we're going to win. So you're not going to win because of the code. Does this make sense? You're going to win because of your playbook, because you have a good playbook. Does this make sense? Yep. And this is why, as you go in over the next 6 weeks, the real fun is not just in developing the solution, but it's also thinking deeply about what the playbook should be. Now, what are playbooks? We are absolutely mad about football in this country, right? So we know how the coach sets the game, right? Right? So playbooks actually are used so much in sports, right? So you will be here, the guy will be there, the attack is coming from there, you will pass the ball to that guy, right? And if you don't execute the play that the coach called for, you see him screaming, right? At the side of the pitch. So playbooks are used to win, all right? It's a natural technique or whatever you want to call it. It is not static, which is what business models are. This is the point. It is dynamic because it keeps moving, right? So if I gave you a simple Potter's 5-force model, it's static, all right? Or which you might need to use to understand whether you should get into that industry at all in the first place. But a playbook is when you take all of that and you're ultimately building out a sequence and a series of different ways of doing it. So here are playbook principles. First and foremost, it builds on strategy. How are we going to win? What are the strategic ambitions? So it's not again about the code, it's about the strategic ambition that is going to drive the code. Agreed? Where are we going? But it's also about implementation. A good playbook will have implementation. How are we going to execute? And this is where you put in place wargaming. Wargaming, dynamic capability mapping, action planning. Do you understand what I mean by wargaming? Yeah? Okay. Which is when the military general is going to execute a war, all the generals step into a room, lock the door, right? And spend days and months on end, scenario by scenario. Move by. The best example of wargaming is chess, right? Great masters in chess have actually played 32 steps ahead. That's what a grandmaster does, right? That's wargaming. If I play that, I know it's going to do. Actually, our grandfathers used to do it with Ayo and draft, right? Under the tree. That's strategy. That's wargaming. So you've got to do that for your innovation. How is this going to play out and ultimately get into that? And finally, very importantly, validation. The most important thing, and I heard that conversation happen here today, and I thought that was extremely useful. It doesn't matter if ultimately, how do we know we're winning? How do we know we are what? Winning. So you need to know how you're doing this. And proper playbook principles operate on the basis of time as well as what? The value horizon. Okay? Now, yeah, a few minutes to so very quickly, because I'm running out of time. Here, one of the most important companies in the world has some amazing playbook practices. perhaps the most important for me is this notion of the empty chair. It is a cultural relic and a ritual that Jeff Bezos has made famous. The red chair, empty chair. Every time the senior management of Amazon gather for any senior meeting, there's a red chair left empty. Do you know what that chair represents? The customer who they serve. It's the basis of this notion of customer obsession. And there's so many other, I'm not going to go into. Another one is the 6-page Word document, rather than a PowerPoint presentation. But to speed things up, just to take it to a point, this is where I think it's important that you understand. If you are setting up your game as a tech startup, you must understand the nature of playbooks for that specific focused area that startups need to do. You have 3 stages you need to cross. You have to have a problem-solution fit, which I suspect you've passed because that's why you were pre-selected. But now your job is to come to product-market fit. And the set of playbooks you're going to have to put in place ultimately must be because you must be able to validate that those constitutive rules towards a service purpose ultimately means that you have a customer validation, right? And we must remember, it doesn't matter about your idea being brilliant if it doesn't come to product market fit. Does that make sense? Sorry, does that make sense? All right. And ultimately, so that's ultimately what it is. So I'm going to wrap up now in 2 minutes. Okay. One is to understand this. 3 things you need to worry about. 1, it has to be purposeful, your playbooks. It has to focus on efficiency and transformation. And that's why we then tap into so many worlds of deep brand discovery, agile thinking, innovation management. And I suspect that the mentoring process should take you through this. The other thing, now the most famous, of course, of all these playbooks will be the business model canvas, Alex Osterwilder's. I think most of us might be familiar with it, right? Do we? Okay. The key thing with the model is not to make it static, but to make it dynamic. Right? That's the key thing about the business model. How do you make it dynamic? And when you're doing this, 2 things you must worry about, you must be careful about. First, false personas and inauthentic user stories. I'll leave you to think about that. In other words, 1, who exactly is the customer, and are they wearing a toga? And have you actually been told the truth about what exactly their need is? Right? Okay, so we'll leave it at that. This is my last slide. There are 4 areas that ultimately you can use to win. The first is to set the right vision. The second is to build the right equity. The third is, as I said, the persona, and then what's the story you're ultimately going to tell. Across those 4 performance areas, you have 12 playbooks, okay, that you can ultimately then use to give your innovation idea a fighting chance. It's not going to guarantee success, but hopefully it will do what? It will give you a better fighting chance. And ultimately, I think that's really what this is about in terms of the core message I hoping to ultimately send to you. And so, by the way, just to give you, we finally got accepted for Star Paper. Michael left and has become a professor of digitization and marketing at University of Graz in Austria. I get to be able to go and spend my summer teaching a class in his university, and we'll see what happens. And of course, we took our wives out
Thank you very much. Another warm round of applause for Dr. Rotimi Olaniyan. I mean, I definitely felt like I was back in class, and I know a lot of us were taking notes. He went into the cocoa of it, yes. And I know a lot of people were taking their notes and had questions. Unfortunately, we have to bring this event to a close. Please stay around and network. You might be able to get a question or 2 answered. Would like to do some pictures before I call on Mr. Falabi to give the vote of thanks. So if the team could help to move this so that we can have the branded backdrop. And I believe Mr. Joshua too will also coordinate this session very quickly. I think we can do it in 2 minutes or less. So the first picture will have all our speakers. So our keynote speakers will also have Mr. Kayode Oladapo from the Fireside Chat. We'll have Mrs. Uko, please, if you can join us. And we'll also have Ms. Tade from Unilever and Mr. Victor Afolabi. So please, we'll have the pictures to be taken very quickly, and then we'll have a second set of pictures. And of course, we cannot forget our government representative, Mr. Fafore. So I believe I've called every single person that needs to be here for the first picture. We need someone to move this. So we'll have Mrs. Uko, Mr. Kayode Oladapo, Mr. David Rabb, Mr. Segun Fafore. Also, we have one of the heavyweights here, Dr. Langpe too. Please, if you can join on stage, Dr. Olaniyo and Ms. Tade from Unilever. So that will be for the first picture. Mr. Tade. Yeah, so we'll have this big picture, then we'll also have a smaller picture where we have the people who have spoken today. So let's have our 2 keynote speakers remain. Mr. Fafore and Mrs. Uko, if you can still join. So we'll just have 5, please. Next, we'd like to have very quickly the heads from GDM Group as well as Eco Innovation Center. If I can have Labake and Edwin, please join. Please, if you can come very quickly to the stage. The event is not yet over. It's almost over. We still have the vote of thanks, but would like to get a picture with the organizers. Speaking of Eco Innovation Center, Mr. Edwin Ajogo, and from GDM Group, Mrs. Labake. And we'll also have Mr. Ilushaki, a good friend of the family, to join the picture. And if you're taking pictures with your phones, joining the official paparazzi, please use the hashtag MarkHack, 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 Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Mr. Langpe, Omoyele, Mrs. Uko again, and the keynote speakers. So we'll have Mr. Rabb, Dr. Olaniyo, please don't keep all the pictures to yourself. We'll be really delighted if you can share them with the hashtag MarkHack. We want to say a big thank you to our partners who have refreshed us. I'm talking about Lipton, I'm talking about Nescafe, and of course, Lacasera. We say a big thank you for keeping us all refreshed throughout the launch of MarkHack. So I'll give the microphone, you've seen him before, Mr. Victor Afolabi, to give the vote of thanks.
I mean, it's to say thank you to everyone who's stayed till the end of this, networked and all that. Not so much, but we share the process. The whole conversations goes online now where we're engaging the groups. We expect curation is happening. We expect we're seeing the best of products. It's 100 teams. We expect we see a lot more investors putting their buck behind this process. And it's not so much about the process as the outcome. We look forward to an outcome that will be revolutionary, that will be worth all the effort that we have these heavyweights come together, have all these companies. Like I said, these are the focus areas. The teams are there in those 8 focus areas. And we do hope that the end is something revolutionary, something disruptive, not just a change that I'll be able to celebrate. So on that note, I want to say a big thank you to everyone, to my super team, the technical crew, the Azon Tech team, the GDM team, the guys that have set up, the ushers, the production guys, my lovely compere who is always doing amazing work, and to everyone who's been a part of this, to Dave who's come all the way from the US, our media and press partners for the good work they're doing. Is a big thank you to everyone, and I do hope that we get home safely, and I look forward to hosting every one of you again back on the 18th when we'll be unveiling the revolutionary products and solutions that have come out from this process. Thank you everyone, and do have a great day.
Thank you very much. I think we can put our hands together for Mr. Victor Afolabi, founder of Eco Innovation Center and the curator of Art of Technology Lagos. And on that note, I'll also add my thank you to everyone who has joined us here physically and virtually for the launch of MarkHack. Thank you so much for your participation, for your questions, your interactions. We really appreciate it. My name is Isabella Adediji, and indeed it's been my pleasure and honor to stand before you as the compere of this event. I wish you all safe journey to your various destinations, and do enjoy the rest of your Friday afternoon. Good afternoon and goodbye from me.
Thanks for visiting Walmart. I will be your shopping assistant module today, but you can call me Sam for short. Okay, let's get started. I have your shopping list loaded up, and I'm tracking your oil change so I can let you know as soon as it's done. You see the tomato sauce on your left? Go ahead and grab that and then place it in your cart. Great. Looks like you need a good wine pairing. Take a look to your right. Your age has already been pre-verified through your profile, so no need to wait for an ID check. Just place the item in your cart whenever you're ready. And getting a notification from your connected smart fridge. It looks like you already have a full gallon of milk at home. Should we put this one back? Hey, good news, your oil change is done. Your vehicle will be ready at the Tire and Lube Express. I've added the service charge to your cart. Now for the fun stuff, to electronics. You definitely saved the best for last. This TV has great reviews on Walmart.com. Add it to your cart, and I'll have it brought to the front for you. Need any accessories? Here are some options on Jet.com. Looks like that's everything on your list. Are you ready to check out with Walmart Pay? I'll have the TV brought out to your car. Thanks for shopping at Walmart and have a great day.